Destination mark.
Hey guys, how's it going? Marcelo here. Welcome to episode 6 of the Bandicast. I've got two guests on today, one returning, one new. If you've seen anything from our new guest today, he's working on Crystal's Wrath right now, which is a Crash fan game with Past Tracks back. He's been doing it for quite a while now. There's a lot of awesome things on that channel. On his own YouTube channel, he's got various Crash videos and also his brand new show that just debuted not too long ago, High Budget Affair. Really awesome, funny, hilarious stuff. Returning, I've got Miharu the Fox, and our special guest today is JumpButton. How's it going, guys?
It's going.
Yep, it's going. I forgot why I'm here.
Yeah, it's long gone.
Okay.
Right now I'm just, I'm trying to sit perfectly still because I chose the world's creakiest chair for this.
Oh, yeah.
That's the bane of my existence as someone who edits sound a lot.
I've got a leather chair right here, so, and I have my feet up on it, so, I can make very, weird, squeaky sounds with it.
Give us a listen. Oh my god.
That was a mild shift of my weight.
A mild shift.
I just moved my arm.
Oh my god.
I don't think this
I'm
sounds...
paranoid. I'm sitting here, freezing.
Yeah.
Trying to not move, ever.
I don't know if the sounds will pick up from my chair.
Try it again real quick.
It's like...
I can sort of hear it.
I don't know. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if I asked you this prior to today as we're recording this. So what stuff are you going to be chipping in, Aaron?
Oh, well, I wanted to be here, like I said, I forgot why I'm here. No, I wanted to be here just because, I want to talk to JumpButton because, you seem to have certain, connections, and I was just curious on how you got those connections.
So we want to start with that, huh?
I guess. I mean, unless it's a long-ass story.
It's long, but I told you I'm a rambler, and you told me that these aren't very short, so let's get into it. So, way back in yonder time, we're talking 2007, Crash of the Titans had just been announced. I was one of the... I think at that time there were 3 moderators on Crash Mania. The forum, not the website. And this was back when Crash Mania forum was still part of the website.
Nice.
So I noticed, all these other sites and stuff getting interviews for Crash stuff, and they were just blathering on, not asking anything that anybody cares about, as you are wont to do when you're somebody who doesn't care about what you're asking about. So I just kind of, I think I just found Radical's, their info address. It was info@radical.ca or something like that. And I was I sent them a little brief thing. I was like, this is what Crash Mania is. This is who I am. Do you want to do an interview with us so that you can actually, talk about it in a way that somebody wants to hear it? Because you can, without having to do the press nonsense where it's this is our game, this is what we have, this, somebody that wants to hear all of it and will ask questions that, maybe you're not getting from other press. So I asked them that, and then I didn't expect anything, honestly, because those info emails, even back then, nobody was checking them. But by the grace of whatever deity you believe in, it got forwarded to Kirsten Forbes, who was the executive producer on all of the Radical Crash games, and I think she was somewhat involved with Simpsons Hit and Run and Hulk Ultimate Destruction.
Cool.
So it got sent to her, and then she replied, and she's was into it, but way less wordy than I was. So it was a 1-sentence response. I was sure, sounds great. Actually, really would love to do that. Get it back to us with questions. And so I was shit, I didn't expect that to work. And then now now I have to figure out 15 questions. Or I think it was either 15 or 12. I think she was like, we'll do a baker's dozen. So it's a 13. Somewhere around there. So I was like, shit, now I have to come up with that many questions. So I went and I got with HPZR, who is now HP Zoner.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the other moderator at the time was Smaz. I don't think... Not that this matters to fucking anybody, but I don't think Venusy or any of those guys were around yet. Nobody listening to this knows who the hell those are. We put together an interview and I sent it off to them and they answered it. And then Kirsten was really cool about it, and she could tell that I had an interest in just game design and games, and especially Crash in general. So, she opened up the opportunity to just ask her stuff pretty much whenever, within reason of like, you can't ask what the final boss is, you can't ask what this is, reasonable limitations, but more access than, somebody just off the street would get. Yeah. And then from there, it rolled over. Titans came out, and they asked me to do a little, like, a feedback review of sorts and send it off to them, and I did that. And I also collected everybody that I was talking about before, Zoner and Smaz and all their feedback, and we put it in a document and we sent it off to them. And then from there, I don't really remember like the process of it, but me and her just kind of became friendly. Like not in a Crash Bandicoot way, just in like a generic way. Yeah. So I would ask her stuff about that. She'd run me through like production exercises, like, oh, if you got this many people on your team and you got this much cost per unit, like how much that kind of stuff, like, because she thought I had a mind for it, and I guess to some degree I did, because I'm a producer on an indie team right now that's been picked up by a publisher. So I guess she either saw the future or she's very intuitive. So she got me into that, and we, like I said, we became friendly. And then I asked her one day, I was like, so, because back then and you guys know, but back then they had the habit of, it would be a mainline Crash game, and then you'd get like a few years of, here's the Game Boy game, here's the DS game, and then after 2 or 3 years of development hell or whatever it was, you would get the console Crash game. And so I asked them, I was like, so who's going to be doing the in-between games this time? And she was just like, nobody. We're going right into it, baby. And I was like, oh, damn. So, Mind Over Mutant starts, like, a few months later. We're already getting, like, news about it. It's like, they busted ass to do that, and this was right in the middle of that Activision merger, where Activision and Vivendi merged. So this was, like, they had 9 months or something like that to crank that game out. Wow. And it was... I mean, like, people can say what they want about Mind Over Mutant. I have my qualms with it. It's obviously not, like, my favorite thing ever, but Radical did that a couple of times. Like, Tag Team, they took over from Traveler's Tales. Yep. And they had like... I'm trying really hard not to use an expression that I love to use, but I'm just going to use it because it's hilarious. They had, like, a pubic hair's width of time to really screw with and figure out what that game was going to be. And then when you think about how much stuff is in Tag Team, like how much content there actually is for how little time they actually worked on it, it's nuts to me. But I'm glad that that game did as good as it did, because then Titans was given an actual budget and time and actually got to have production value, which in the PS2 era of Crash games was not really a running theme, if you remember. Yeah. So, blah, 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 Mind Over Mutant, that came out, and so I was close to 2 people who were really high up in the company, like, one of which is basically, like, one person below Kelly's Mac, who was, I think it's Mac, it's ZMAK, he was the president of the company. So it was like the people I knew were like 1 and 2 steps below him.
Damn.
And so I got close with them. And then after Mind Over Mutant, at one point, they were starting on the next Crash game. And I want to be very clear, they never, ever, ever did anything that I believe broke NDA. Or, like, because I don't want to... I've told this story on Twitter before, but I don't want it to, like, blow up in their face. So, somewhere in 2009, I think it was her. She reached out and she said, would you like to throw together like a little Bible for us? And I was like, what do you mean, a Bible? And she's like, we just want you to go through like all the characters in the whole series and all the locations in the whole series and like all the story beats and just kind of arrange them in the way the fans interpret it. And we want to take that and use it to kind of form what we're doing next. And so that was like, well, shit. I mean, that's cool, but that's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
So I went and I grabbed that little team of people that I always grab. Zoner and Smaz, and I think Tom helped. I was, like, I'm not tooting my own horn here, this is just true. I was always more friends with the Radical folks. I mean, not like the whole team, just those 2 or 3 people, but like...
Yeah.
I was always, like, closer than the Crash Mania people were, like the mods, but they knew who the mods were and they trusted them. So it was like, if they wanted me to do something and they were asking me something, they'd be like, I was like, hey, can I bring Zoner in on this and get his opinion and we can build something together and that'll probably be better than if I do it on my own and I can have it to you quicker. And they're like, yeah. We know them, they're all cool. So we did that and we made that whole little Bible for them and sent it off. I want to say, I think it was before even the summer of 2009. So like, Landed was supposed to come out the end of 2010, and I didn't know it was called Crash Landed yet. I didn't know anything about it. I think so I sent that off like pretty early in 2009, maybe like September at the latest. Like enough that it would have made an impact. So like I knew they weren't just like blowing smoke up her ass.
Yeah.
But and I'm talking we put that thing together. I think it was like 10 pages, and like the majority of that was, I've got it somewhere, but I can never find it on demand. So like, and it opened. I wrote like a foreword and a postscript in, and this is kind of embarrassing, but I was like 17 at the time. So this is kind of embarrassing, but like I wrote in character an opening and a closing as Aku Aku and Uka Uka respectively.
That's
nice.
Awesome.
And then all of the middle was like, I also did a map for them. Like I took all the islands and all the places like the Academy and the iceberg and put them in like one little graphic. But I can't remember if that was part of this or if that was something I did for them later. Because that one I asked them if they wanted.
Uh-huh.
They asked for the Bible. I was like, well, do you want, like, instead of just describing the locations, do you want me to just put it in a picture and then you have it? And she's like, yeah, sure, send it along. So we did that, and that was my big contribution to Crash Landed, and then it died. But we were gonna be in the credits and everything. Like it blew my mind. I was so excited for it, and then either February 10th or February 12th, 2010 rolled around, and like we found out that Radical got shit canned. And I emailed them and I was like, please tell me that doesn't mean what I think it means, because it didn't say who got fired.
Yeah.
And she's like, nah, that's us.
Oh.
I was like, fuck.
Oh no.
And I was like,
oh my god.
And that was what spurred me to make like that. I don't know if you guys were, because I know you guys are a little bit younger than me. I don't know how much younger than me you are, but I don't know if you guys were around for any of the Bring Back Bandicoot stuff. Like
I
that
do
went
remember
from
that.
What year was that?
that was like 2010 into like 2015. I kept it pretty consistent.
I caught it near
Probably.
2015.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
I think I remember that.
Yeah, so like we had a letter writing campaign. Like I shit you not, I got like 20 or 30 letters from people. Like in the first couple of weeks of opening the PO box.
Wow.
But I couldn't. I don't remember what happened to like make people like it just kept getting buried because at the time Crash Mania and other Crash stuff was like still pretty active because we didn't have Reddit and Twitter and everything where everything fucking falls into one place. You had like, you know, you had forums, and so like if somebody wanted to talk about Crash Bandicoot, they only really had one place that was popular to go. So it was still kind of busy, and it would kind of fall off. And I would remind people like, "Hey, still trying to bring back Bandicoot," and it kind of fell off for a bit there, but then, and you know, towards the end, like 2014, 2015, we started picking up steam, especially on the Twitter stuff, and like, I can't remember who told me. At some point, somebody did let us know that, like, you know, like, it wasn't the only factor in the decision making, I'm sure, but like, just the sheer amount of people that were asking for it, and it being forwarded straight through my thing to like people like Adam Boyes at Sony, it helped to spur them to reach out to Activision and be like, "Hey, do you let's work together and make this." And I have people who will tell me like, "Oh, you did it! You brought back Bandicoot." And I'm like, "No, I didn't." I retweeted stuff. Like, I will never take credit for that. If I had any role in it, I'm happy to have done it, but I'm not gonna be up my own ass and say, "Yeah, man, I got on Twitter.com and brought back Crash Bandicoot."
It was all me.
Like, it was all me. But yeah, so the Bring Back Bandicoot stuff kept it alive, and like, Kirsten stayed in games, obviously, even though Radical folded, because she was, you know, she's a good ways deep into the industry at that point, even more so now. She split off and started her own company with a couple other people. I don't remember if any of them were from Radical. It started as an all-women company. It was called Silicon Sisters.
Uh-huh.
They did a couple of mobile games right as the mobile industry blew up. So like that kind of helped launch, and then I don't know if that folded or she just moved on for other reasons, but like here and there I kept in touch. And like 2017 I was living in Massachusetts, and I reached out to her for some life advice. I don't remember what made me think, "Oh, you know who can help me with this extremely personal issue?" Kirsten Forbes, who I only know through business relationship. But I was just kind of in a bad place mentally, and I was like, I need like an outside perspective on this that isn't my parent or isn't somebody that is close to me who is going to blow smoke up my ass. I need somebody who's like, who knows me and knows my personality and knows all that, but isn't going to be a dumbass about it and tell me what I want to hear.
Yeah.
So I reached out to her about it, and then she got back to me and was like really helpful, and that kept that going. And around that time, a little bit earlier, 2016, because all this was like right at the beginning of 2017, into 2016. It reaching out to her kind of reminded me, like, you know, like, I used to be way more like assertive and more able to go after things. So I reached out to Activision like around that time, and I was like, "All right, look, I'm just gonna introduce myself to them, tell them I told them the whole story of what was going on there, and I was like, I know the internet has changed, but Crash Mania and me and all that little circle can still be of use to you for getting, you know, because for whatever ungodly fucking reason, 2,000 people follow me on Twitter. I think at that time it was only like 900. So, like, I don't know what the fuck people see in me, but I mean, 2000's not even a lot, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's like, why did 2000? I can't imagine being somebody who's got like I look at Barack Obama and he's got like 120 something million people, and I'm like, yeah, I get that he was the president of the United States, but like, it's hard to get that. It's hard to get like a couple hundred people in one place.
Exactly.
So seeing an account that has like 100 million followers on it, and I'm like, and then you realize that's a drop in the bucket of 8 billion. And it puts a lot of things in perspective for you.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get 7,000 subscribers on YouTube.
Well, here's the funny thing, right? So, at E3 2018, I actually caught up with Jordan Fringe, and that was back when he was, Spyro stuff was around, because we got to play the demo, so we got to talking and all that. And, yeah, I was mentioning that because the thing that Aaron and I sort of struggle with, and I was talking about this actually, we'll get into it later, sort of, with the demo and all that for Crash 4, but how, like, there's only so many connections that she and I have as well, and of course we're not going to divulge too much into that, but, like, I even messaged you a little bit, like, I feel like we kind of got left off the list for certain things, and, to put into perspective of how, no matter how big or small a following, you have to start somewhere, and that's how you end up growing. And flashback to E3, I was with Jordan, and I talked to him a little bit about it, and it's kind of how you were saying. I think I only had about 1,000 subs at the time, and I was like, yeah, it's crazy like how you're doing what you're doing, and I've been following you for a while now, and like, I'm trying to, like, I've been doing stuff for like, 3 years prior, back in 2015, I was really doing like Crash stuff and Spyro stuff. And, like, I know I don't have the highest production value with my videos, but I still, at the same time, don't feel like I'm getting anywhere. And he just was kind of like, well, you have 1,000 subs, so think about it, like, if you gave a live speech, like, in the structure of a video of yours, but you did it in front of your subscribers, you're basically filling up a well-sized room of a lot of people who are coming just to listen to you. And I was like, damn. Well, it's true, it's like, oh God, like that. It helped me to try and do a bit better and try and work harder at what I'm doing. I mean, right now I have like I think 2.5, so it's still very It's there has been growth, and I'm super appreciative of everything that I get. But then and then I meet Erin, and she's got like 6, almost 7K, and that's super good because once you hit that 10,000 mark, I feel like people really help you take off. Like the viewers help you as much as you give them, content they want to see. And because I know, Jeremiah Isaiah, he's got a bunch of subs. Then you get into the big guys, Canadian Guy and Crystal Fissure and all them. It's really nuts to see how some of them take off. Like we witnessed CG take off once Spyro like was around and started happening. And look where he is now. Like it's nuts. But then like you put it into the perspective of we all kind of started doing the same structure of coverage when it comes to like covering like news drops and rumors and whatnot, but only some of them took off. And even though Aaron and I in particular are a bit lower on the spectrum, I still feel like even Aaron's taken off way faster than me. So like I have no idea what we're supposed to do to get it rolling, because like, and I say that all with the context of I've always been under the philosophy when I'm on YouTube that subs come last when I'm thinking of content. That's still true, but when you want to do my thing, I think, is when you want to start business relations and you want to reflect that in your content, the quality of what you're bringing, what you're bringing, in general, how fast you can bring it out, because you see like journalists and stuff, they're on top of everything, and a lot of our bigger friends are on top of everything. And I still feel like we're not quite hitting that. And I just want to know like what we need to do. I'm still trying to figure that out mentally. Like what do we need to do to get that exposure? It's not for the popularity. It's not to be a big YouTuber. It's to do what we love and try to gain some business out of that and a little bit more perspective out of that.
I'd like to be doing this like
full time,
something like that.
Yeah, well, I forget where I left off on that story, by the way.
Sorry.
So we might be done with that. But
Well, it's a very enlightening story. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But okay, I kind of remember where it was, but first I want to kind of expound on what you just said. Like as far as connections go, I feel like people overthink it. Like every connection I've ever got has just been out of brute force. Like, I was actually talking about it in that story there. Like, when I went to actors and I was like, here's all of this stuff that I've done for you when you first merged with another company. Like, I've done this with your company. Like, I know all these people that can vouch for me. And you just I kind of just blew in the door and I was like, hey, what's going on in here? And they're like, Skylanders. And I was like, cool. Crash Bandicoot's in there now, huh? And they were like, yeah. And I was like, let me have it. And they said, okay.
So, Crash
Like,
Bandicoots and the Skylanders. Yeah.
So, not to bring the DMs to the podcast, but that's kind of what I was telling you earlier is, like that's kind of the way, like, I get everything that I get. And, like, I'll finish that story in a minute to expound on how I am more in touch than some might be. But, like, everything that I get legitimately from, like, that they send me for PR, like, that they want me to, like, put on YouTube or tweet. Everything that I get from them on that is just because every once in a while they forget I exist. And I go to them and I'm like, fucking cut that out. and then they're cool again. And I really do think it's just because, like, you gotta think, they do not, and this is just the marketing knowledge talking.
Yeah.
But from the perspective of a company, you don't ever want to piss off a customer, especially if that customer is coming to you saying, I will advertise for you for free.
Yeah.
So, but that, you have to take that into the perspective of, there are probably a litany of people just like us who are trying to do the same thing.
I see. Yeah,
and then you have like I'm honest to God, I've seen like some little Tom, Dick, and Harry Twitch channel with like 5 followers get a demo code before, and it has, like, you just kind of have to get on their ass.
Yeah.
There's a net of reps too, and like, I shit you not, on more than one occasion in my life, and I don't think I've done this to Activision. I think I've done this before it was Activision. Like, on occasion, they would do stuff with Crash Mania back in the day, and they would say, like, oh, this is, and I'll use fake names, even though this is 15 years ago almost. Holy shit. But I'll use it, but still, fake names. This is Kyle, and he'll help you with this, and he'll get you assets on this and this and this, and then it's the day Kyle's supposed to get to you, and you get an auto response, and it's like, Kyle's on vacation.
Yeah.
If it's important, email Tina. And I'm like, you bet your ass I'm emailing Tina. Like, and then if Tina's auto response comes up, I'm gonna go to their website and I'm gonna find somebody's email who won't.
Fucking Tina.
Because that's their whole thing, is like public relations.
Yeah.
And press releases and all that. So, like, they're not gonna, like, I'm not gonna say they'll never get pissed at you, because they will definitely get pissed at you if you are a huge dick.
Yeah.
So, like, if you're not stupid and you're not a dick, 9 times out of 10, if you really press on them, they'll eventually buckle and be like, this is what we can do to work with you. And, like, you're not always gonna get, like, exactly what you want.
Yeah.
Like, if you come in and you're like, yeah, so I've got 5 subs, and I'm trying to get, like, early access to the game. Can you fly me out? They're not going to fly you out.
Yeah.
But they might be like, well, here's what we can do. We can send you the screenshots a day early so that you can produce your video early. Like, you might get that. And then once they see that, like, you don't even have to get a big return for them. Like, as long as they see that, like, you're putting out what you say you're going to put out. Like, if you say, oh, I'm going to do a video review, can I get this code early? And then they send you the code and you don't put a fucking review out, you better bet your ass you're not getting anything next time.
Yeah.
So it really is, like, in my experience, and I'm not going to talk for everybody, but in my experience, if you get on their ass a little bit and say, this is what I have cooking, what I want to work on, is there anything you can do to work with me on that?
Yeah.
It's literally their job to do it. Like, they will literally try their best. And, like, the worst thing you can get is a no. I think I asked for either Insane or CTR early, because it must have been NST, because I did a review on that. Like, I did an actual written review. No, Skylanders. It was Skylanders.
Uh-huh.
Because I was like, no, I didn't write a review on NST. And then I remember, yeah, you're the guy who wrote a 4,000 word review on the 1 hour long crash level in the Skylanders game. And that's on Crash Mania somewhere. I have it hosted on, like, a Tumblr, because we didn't want to put it on Crash Mania because it wasn't written by Zoner, but we didn't want to put it on a faceless Tumblr. So we put it on the Tumblr, and then he linked to it. And I sent it to Activision, and I was like, here's what I did with what you sent. And then they never said anything about it. But I'm sure somebody looked at it. But that's the other thing, is you're not always going to get a response.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
You get a response when it's pertinent. So, like...
Yeah.
They sent that Skylanders thing expressly because I went and made that stink and was like, here's what I did with Sierra, and here's what I did with Radical, and here's, like, people who can vouch for me, and this and that and that. And then they were like, do you want to play Skylanders? And I was like, yeah. And I was like, what? They're like, what edition do you want? And I'm like, what do you mean, what edition? And they're like, what starter kit do you want? And I'm like, that's $100. And they're like, so? And then I was like, I'll take the Crash edition. And I was I'm expecting just the regular Crash edition to show up, like the box set with, like, with Cortex and Crash and the game, and I think it was like Golden Queen or something is the one that came with them, because you needed a regular Skylander too.
Yeah.
But I expected that to show up. And, like, they were like, it might be there a little early, it might be there on the day, and, like, I forgot about it. I went to Target and I bought the game the day it came out. And I drove home, and when I got home, there was this ungodly huge box sitting on the porch. I was like, what the fuck is that? Like, it still didn't click to me that it was from them. I got up on the porch, and I looked down, and it's like, Activision, blah, 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 Santa Monica, California. And I was like, what the I was like, what, they put a bunch of packing peanuts in here or something? And I take it inside and I open it, and there's like $500 worth of Skylanders.
Holy
it's like,
shit.
It was the Crash starter kit, and then every single figure of Series 1 for Imaginators. I was like,
oh my god!
So what the hell? And, like, I put out, like, a tweet of the picture of, like, all this crap piled up on my coffee table. And I'm like, thanks to Activision, I guess. And, like, people were like, what the hell? And I emailed them. I was like, I thought I was just getting the starter kit. And they're like, well, we want you to be able to play everything so you can review it. And I was like, okay. So the point of that story is
that's a little much.
Activision threw $600 at somebody who had relatively small following just because I went and asked. So I know I've rambled through that point a few times now, but really the moral of the story is just, if you do not ask, you will not get.
Right. And
so
if
you feel like they fall off the face of the earth, go ahead.
Yeah, to go back with what I was saying, like, when I first got noticed for doing things, it was to, like, get a review code for something, but at the time I didn't have like computer powerful enough to run that game. So now that I have a new computer and stuff like that, I'm thinking of like asking again, because like now I can do all that stuff, so I can like actually run those, those games and get those review codes maybe. So
yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the moral here is if you feel like they fall off the face of the earth, and they do, they often do. That's just the nature of the job when you have, I think, I mean, they have a net of people, obviously, and it's like a third-party PR company working for Activision, but like they, and then the other thing is first-party marketing, and this is me projecting on them a bit because just from my work experience so far working with our publisher, sometimes things get lost. So like first party will be like I have producer in my name at Summit Sphere working on Anton Ball, and sometimes shit doesn't even get to me. So like I can't imagine working at this giant monolith and then working for that giant monolith and having like a relatively small team, I'm sure, because I'm gonna guess they don't have hundreds of people doing the PR. But you do have thousands of incoming requests.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like the other thing is, and this is like, I realize we're just kind of giving like an advice stream for people who want to get free things now, which is not what you guys are doing, and not what I'm doing. But like, there are people out there who are like, I'm gonna go ask for shit.
Yeah.
It sounds easy.
Maybe
like,
I shouldn't have asked the question about your connections.
You need a baseline of having some kind of forum that you can exercise. Like if you just come up and you're like, hey, I can play this and talk to my friends at work about it, they're gonna be like, you're probably not even gonna get an email back. But when you have something like I said, I've seen really small Twitch channels that just, were like, can I play this on my stream? And they're like, yeah. So, like, that's when but what I was saying, you have a very small group of people responsible for the incoming requests from a very large group of people. So, really all you can do is just, if you don't get an answer, ask again.
Yeah.
And any respectful person in that industry, whether it's pure marketing or public relations, like I said, it's their job to be, cool, not be a dick. But you'll know if you piss them off, because it'll switch from cool and cordial, but you'll still get a respectful response, but you can tell the tone changed. Where it's like one email, they'll be like, hey, sorry this is so late. We wanted to get it to you earlier, blah, 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 blah. And you'll be like, cool. And then you'll be like, it would have been really, like, if you're like, it would have been really helpful to have it a week ago. They're going to be like, well, it really depends on this and that and that. We try our hardest. And like, it's nice, but you can tell behind the keyboard, they're like, fuck you. Which is the ultimate customer service experience. I mean, before I was doing Anton Ball, every job I've ever had before that was retail management. So I know exactly what it is to be on a customer-facing position where you have all the power, but you have to make them think they do, which is kind of where they're at. It's like they're the ones who can ultimately say, we can get you these assets, or we can get you this game, or we can get you this merchandise. But they have to deliver it in a way that makes you feel like you're a part of it. And that's hard to do when you're being a dick.
Yeah.
So like I said, stuff's going to fall through the cracks. As long as you're not a dick and you're not being stupid. And when I say being stupid, I mean like if they tell you the embargo's Tuesday at 11 and you're posting shit Monday at 3 in the morning, you're stupid. Don't do that.
Yeah.
But, that should be obvious, I would hope.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
But, yeah. To get us off of this everlasting loop of saying the same shit over and over, what I'm going to do is I'm going to parlay that back into the finish of that story from earlier.
Sweet,
so,
go for it.
So the whole thing with Radical, Radical getting canned, and then there were that few years where there was no Crash, and then finally getting to switch my stupid Twitter name from Bring Back Bandicoot to Brought Back Bandicoot, and being like, we did it, guys! And then realizing Skylanders was almost out, and I was like, man, it kind of sucks that, like, we can't make content for this because I don't know anything about it unless they announce it. And then I was like, why don't I just ask? And so I asked, and then they put me through, and then the next year was when that whole personal blow-up thing happened I was telling you about, and I reached out to my old friend, and then that put me on the path to game stuff. Like, I was living real close to Vicarious Visions at the time.
Cool.
I applied for some stuff there. Like, I had people at Activision, or previously at Activision, going to bat for me on that. And unfortunately, the role that I was up for, well, I shouldn't say up for, because I don't even know if they ever saw my fucking application. But there were people that were, going to bat for me to get in on that, and then basically what happened was that role was filled before I even really got the ball rolling. So I had a couple of friends that were really going to bat on it and be like, hey, you should give this guy a look, and blah blah. And then they finally hear back and they're like, oh, that filled weeks ago. We'll keep him in mind, but we filled that ages ago. And I was like, because that would have been I feel like if that had gone through, I would probably, even if the personal shit didn't work out, I would obviously probably still be living 700 miles away from where I live now, and I can't imagine how different things would be. But at the same time, you look at the things you have now, and it's I guess I wouldn't change it. But all of that kind of rolled the ball for me a little bit, and then you have people that know people that know people. I don't know if you ever heard of the 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon.
No. It's not familiar to me.
Okay, so the idea of 6 Degrees to Kevin Bacon is that you know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who knows Kevin Bacon. Because of the amount of people on Earth, there's if you try really hard, and it's getting harder because the population is growing, and I don't know how much this is scientifically verifiable, but typically, if you want to try really hard, you can get from one connection that's right next to you all the way to where you want to be. And it just, that's what you kind of have to do. It's I know we're getting off base of that story again. Basically, the end of that story is that when the whole Activision thing happened and they were starting to let me in on Skylanders, I started connecting with, other people. People like you, and people like CGE, and people like blah, 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 and then that stretches your network. And then you can learn somebody's name through a conversation, and then you can be like, well, does that person have a public profile? And then you can go, and I'm not saying stalk people, never stalk people. Yeah. but if they have a public business profile, if you go to the company's website and it's oh, email this person for this, then okay, well, they have a public point of access. I know this person that they know. You ask the person that you know, hey, can I mention you? And then if they say yes, you go to the person that you don't know, and you're like, hey, I know blah, and I work with him on blah blah, and then you kind of weasel your way in through that, and then before you know it, you know way too much about video games before they come out. That's the entire summary of how I know things that I know, and how I know them when I know. It's because I brute force it, and I ask.
Yeah.
And so ends the networking story arc for JumpButton's episode of the Bandicast. and so ends my time here, because I don't also I don't want to have to go for another 2 hours probably, or how long this goes, and have to render this a 3-hour audio thing. So
that's all I wanted to know. So I think I'm just gonna get off here.
All right. Well, thanks for coming in and returning for a little bit, Aaron.
All right. It was nice being here. Nice talking to you, JumpButton. Thank you for sharing your story.
You too, even though I ramble forever.
All right. So see you, everybody.
Yay! Bye.
So I'm gonna go ahead and guess now we can try and get through these questions.
Yeah. Okay. So now comes
Now that I've zipped my lip.
It's a nice peek behind the curtain on what we're doing behind the scenes when it comes to specifically to keep it full circle for Crash, for Crash content. That's our kind of thing that we're trying to do right now. But it's very telling and it's very interesting. So the first question, I guess we'll go ahead and start with, is what is your history with Crash? When did you first get into the series, and what was the first game you ever played?
The first game in the series that I ever played was Crash Bandicoot on the PlayStation 1, the very original game, roughly the month it came out.
Nice.
My cousin's aunt, I say my cousin's aunt because she was on the other side of the family and was not related to me. She bought him a PS1. I don't know. When I look back at all these memories of that time, it seems like everybody on that side of the family just had like this unlimited flow of money that like I cannot explain to you. But it just, a PS1 popped up one day and I started playing it. I don't remember like my first experience with it. I wish I did.
Yeah.
I was 4 and change. So like that was really like where you're starting to form long-term memory, so it's understandable that I don't remember like the first time, but I remember so much of like the green gem in Jungle Rollers, like right there in that tunnel, like that fucking gem, just when you get close to it and it goes away and it's like you piece of shit. I remember how like as a kid that age, I couldn't fucking get to, I think it's Castle Machinery that's got the green gem.
Yeah.
I couldn't get the Castle Machinery. So to me, that little gem disappearing when you get close to it, I was like, it was a mystery for like multiple years of my life. I was like, how do you have to sneak up on it? Is there a button to sneak? Like, so like that's the kind of stuff I remember first on. And then I remember at some point I found the super password. Or one of many super passwords, because that game's passwords, I believe, are algorithmically generated, and there's like millions of them.
Uh-huh.
But that same super password that got printed in every game magazine and every page of Game Facts back in the late 1990s, the one that ends with XXXX, yep. Everybody knows it.
Yeah.
So I found that out, and I was like, "Oh, what the hell is this?" I was like, and as a kid, I like didn't really think like, "Oh, that's cheating." Yeah, I didn't get there myself. Like I just thought, "Oh, you can teleport around."
Yeah,
I thought it was just part of the game. Like it's not a cheat code; it's just a password. If you know the password, you can get in anywhere that needs a password. So that like there was like this mystique to the end of the game where
plus
like all the hard stuff.
Sorry, I say plus you can't save when you put that in.
Yeah, you can't.
So it's not really cheating.
No, you have to do it every time. But the end of the game had like a mystique to it because it was too hard to beat any one of the single levels, and like I was doing them individually. And I never beat any of them. So like you didn't know how they flow together.
Uh-huh.
So like it had like this kind of another game that was like that for me. Is when it first came out was Sonic Adventure.
Yeah.
Like, that game, as a kid, it did such a good job of, like, when you beat all the other stories and you unlock the Super Sonic story, it does such a good job of making it feel like it's not part of the game. When you get to it, it feels like it's this mystery, like it's this thing that nobody else has seen. And, like, I guess part of that is back in the early 2000s and the late 90s, there was no, like, you couldn't go on the internet and accidentally get fucking Prosafia Gaming into seeing something you didn't want to see.
Yeah. Exactly.
You had to get there yourself. You could hear from somebody down the hall at school, like, "Hey man, did you see Super Sonic?" And I'm like, What's supersonic? Like, you hear a little rumble. You would hear little rumblings like that, but you couldn't just go on the internet and be like, is there a fucking supersonic at the end of Sonic Adventure? Because nobody would fucking know either. So when you finally get to something like that, there's like that shadow to it, this crazy mystique where you're like, oh, that's so nuts. It's so this and that. And, okay, all right, that's weird.
Whatever.
I got distracted because I got a Twitter notification from Nicholas Cole. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is because I can't see past the preview. But
for those
that's weird.
For those listening who are like, wait, who? That's the concept artist for Reignited and Crash 4.
Yeah, I don't like every once in a while, like he or like Paul Yan or somebody, and none of these people follow me. I need to make that super clear. Every once in a while, one of them will just show up on a tweet that hasn't been retweeted by anybody they follow and will like it. And I'm like, this validates me. I feel important and seen. Because, like, I know there's no way they got it retweeted to them. So they're out here looking for people and, like that guy knows what he's talking about. See what he thinks about it.
Yeah.
And it's like it's not tooting your own horn. It's like it just feels cool to be validated by the people who are making the thing.
Well, that's how I felt. Yeah.
Like just to know that your opinion is respected at least a little bit on the game that they're making that you want to play. It's mind blowing.
Well, speaking of concept artists, I believe I can tell the story because he's already like revealed himself and all that. Because I like how a lot of the team have to wait until the game they're working on is announced or out before they go, oh hey, I worked on this. And otherwise they have to keep hush about it, obviously. And whenever they do go and mess around with fans and all that, they even if they initiate a conversation, they have to be like, yeah, don't really put my name out there too much. Because I got that with Twan. I'm not going to try to pronounce his last name, but he was one of the concept artists. Sorry. Huh?
Tuan Yin?
Yeah. I've never been able to figure out how to pronounce his last name. But
I mean, I could be wrong, but like that's how I've always heard it pronounced.
And sorry, he's on the concept artist. He was an animator on Insane. Yeah. And
he's out at Sony or Pixar or something now. He's like in one of the big time studios.
That's dope. Yeah, I haven't talked to him in a while, but I saw his name appear a few times in some of our streams. I don't even think they were mostly. I don't remember what they were because I don't remember exactly what I was streaming. I was streaming different games before Insane dropped, so I don't remember what I was streaming. I would just stream various games, and he would show up. So we didn't know who he was as far as we were concerned. He was just another viewer, and it wasn't until I was chilling in one of Jeremiah Isaiah's streams on Twitch, and he had a different name. He had like an actual username, because he would use his real name on YouTube, but on Twitch he was like Epic Shepherd or something like that. I don't know if I should bleep that out. He had a username. I don't know. Anyway, so he Insane like dropped, and it was still brand new, and I was watching Jerry play it on Twitch, and he was like, he comes in and he goes, oh, thanks for playing my game. And we were like, what? And we had this whole moment. I don't think Jerry even has that clip anymore, but we had this whole moment, and he was like, he didn't initially say like, oh, that's bullshit, but he was like, we need proof, man. And he's like, well, I can't show too much proof, but I do have some inklings I could probably like DM you or something. And I was just weirdly curious, because I was like, oh yeah, like what's the deal with that? I'm kind of curious too. And since Jerry was in the middle of playing, he did DM him, but he also DM'd me. And I saw the picture, and I was like, oh my god. And I think since he also goes by his real name, I think on Twitter, I saw his name, and I'm like, oh shit, I know this guy. He's been in my streams. And then I looked at the picture, and I was like, oh, that is definitely something that's very credible. And then I got curious, so I looked up Insane's credits, and I found the animators. I'm like, oh shit! And I went to Jerry's stream. I'm like, nah, he's for real. This is all true. And like that's how he revealed himself to us. And then ever since then, I remember pointing out something. I forgot where I pointed it out. I don't know if it was a stream or something. But one of the scenes he worked on, or one of the shots in particular that he's proud of, that he helped work on for the Crash 1's intro, is when we see the Cortex Vortex go haywire, and then we see that scene of Cortex being like, oh shit, something's wrong, and you see Crash freaking out in the background, and it freeze frames on his face to mimic how the old intro from the original game had that one face he makes where his eyes are crossed and his tongue's sticking out. So Crash makes that face as he's wigging out because it's an animated, like you see what's going on with him in the vortex in Insane. And he makes that face and it freeze frames, so it's a little homage to that. And I caught that, and when I mentioned it and I talked about it, Twan later revealed to me, he goes, dude, I'm glad that you pointed that out because I worked on that and I didn't think anyone would initially. I wanted to see how long it would take for someone to find that, and you were like on the ball with it. I'm like, oh damn, it's awesome.
Yeah,
it's little things like that I really like.
Yeah, it's always cool to get like those little, little grab bag looks at what's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah,
I think what I was saying about Crash, that was my first Crash game, was Crash 1, and it's like that's all I remember about it. Really, is like I've beaten it front to back a lot of times now, especially especially post MST. But when I was a kid, it was always like this out of reach mystery, fucking shadowed over thing where all this nuts stuff was happening at the end of it, and you only get to see it in piecemeal because you die too many times to see, and it gives you 4 lives when you put in that password. So that's all you get, because you ain't getting no extra lives at the end of the game unless you run through Castle Machinery. Which, once I figured that out, I was like, holy shit. I can use this to maybe have a chance of getting to the first or second checkpoint in some of those other levels. And then, from there it goes to all different kinds of stuff. And then Crash just kind of rolled with me for that. From there, like Crash 2 came out. It was still too early for me to have, like, real access to the internet, and the internet wasn't like really good yet. It's like Crash 2 just kind of fucking farted out. It just showed up in the store one day. I was like, holy shit! I didn't know they were making another Crash. And then like, it's funny, like the time dilation when you're a kid. You like, time is time. It feels like it always feels, but like when you're a kid and you don't know something's coming, you're like, it's been so long since that came out. And so Crash 2 came out, and then I think from Crash 2 to Crash Warped is like a year, maybe a little less.
I think so.
But in
like 11 months or something?
in that passage of time, like, I was like, I already had like a grasp on the fact that just because something comes out and has a sequel doesn't mean they're going to keep making sequels. Like, I was already aware of like, I wasn't always like, I wonder when Crash 3 is going to come out. But I remember I wanted Spyro the Dragon, and we went down to Walmart and got Spyro, and we were driving home, and I opened the game because I was going to take the manual out and look at it, and you open the little square-ass jewel case, and you like, they've got the back of the manual facing you because that's how they slot it in, because for anybody who's not old enough to remember PS1 games, the way they got the cover on the front of it was they would print the cover on the front of the manual and then slide the manual in there.
Yep.
It's like your manual was your cover and your booklet. And on the back of it is fucking Crash on a motorcycle. And I'm like, what the fuck is that? Except fucking 6-year-old language instead of swearing. I was like, whoa! Because I had no idea Crash 3 was a thing.
You became Hank Hill.
And when, whoa! but Spyro came out, and I got it, and I opened it, and on the drive home, saw Crash Warped, and I was like, I don't care about Spyro anymore. which is not true. When I got home and I put Spyro in, I had a lot of fun, and still do, with Spyro 1, which is my favorite Spyro game, even though nobody asked.
Hey, that's completely valid. I love Spyro 1.
But, so that was how I found out Crash Warped was coming, and, like, it came out, like, within spitting distance of Spyro. So I was like, I found out about it and then got to get it, like, weeks later. And I remember I had it, and I had it for, like, a week or like a couple of days, and I was playing it either after school. Must have been after school because it wasn't during summer. I was playing it after school. Like, I'd wake up in the mornings on the weekend to play it. I remember it took me like 7 or 8 days just to get to the end of the game, like just to beat Cortex. And when I did, my stepdad was like, "You beat that already? What a waste of money!" I'm like, "It took me a week." Like, and I didn't even finish it. Like, there's still so much shit left in this. But for some reason, that's like my clearest memory of Warped. Is finding out about it because I bought Spyro and then being told that I beat it too fast by my stupid stepdad. And keep in mind, video games were still only $40 back then. I mean, give or take inflation, I'm sure it's closer to even than we would like it to be, but still, 40 is less than people think. And I don't know how that happened, because I remember SNES games were like really stupid expensive, like $70, $80 for some of them. Fuck. Like, I would go to Toys R Us to get a PS1 game, and I'd be like, I was, stupid, ignorant little kid. I'm like, PS1 games are in 3D, and they got all these cool graphics, and you can save them and stuff like that, and they're only 40, and sometimes they're $19.99 because they're on the greatest hits. And why would I want an SNES game? It's $80 and it's not even as good. But that's neither here nor there. But yeah, as far as history with Crash, 99% of the lasting relationships in my life come from Crash. Like, I honestly can't think of one that doesn't.
Yeah.
But I will say at the same time, it has also brought me some of my greatest fucking enemies. So, but I guess that comes with the territory when you let something be such a cornerstone of your life. It brings good and bad.
It's really interesting, your history, because a lot of my history kind of lines up the same way, except that, yeah, while I'm younger, I was like 2 when I actually started getting to play games, and I started, so that was back in 97, I was 2 in 97, so I don't remember when I first started playing Crash. I just know that Crash was one of the first ones that I did play, because as far back as I can go, I just have memories of trying to figure out how those wooden platforms, those log platforms worked in the Great Gate, having to figure out how to spin them and stuff like that, figuring out, certain little things like that. I was super, super young. So Crash 2 was already out by that time. So I don't remember when we got Crash 2. It just kind of appeared in the house one day. So, getting to play it there, and then Warped kind of just followed suit. CTR, Bash followed suit. And the first one I remember actually receiving was Wrath of Cortex. So, because that was my first PS2 game. And that was during the Christmas of, I think it was 01? That's when Wrath came out, right?
It would have been
01,
a little bit. It was 01, because I got it for my birthday, and I got it, and my birthday is the beginning of November, so it must have been out in October of 01.
Okay, all right, yeah. So that was brand spanking new then, basically, when I got it for Christmas that year. And then from there, yeah, so I'm not gonna go through every mini story, and a couple of them I've went over in different episodes before, but I do, from there onward, I do have some little mini stories with how I would find out about the next game. Twin Sanity, I just found out through one of Hollywood Video's little pamphlets. So they would have the upcoming movies and games. So we got one, but I hadn't looked through it yet. And then my grandma looked through it and said, "Oh, there's new Crash." I was like, "Whoa, shit!" And so that's how I found out about that. And then I would see tag team through the commercials on TV and stuff, and then Titans and Mind Over Mutant. But by the time of Titans Mind Over Mutant, that's where I started to use the internet more often, and I would go through Wikipedia. So before finding out about forums and stuff for Crash, I would go through Wikipedia and scroll all the way down to the bottom where you would look at oh, here's your list of other links for all the other Crash games. And if I saw a new game, something I didn't recognize, it was a new game coming out. So I found out about Titans that way. and Might Never Mutant, I think. So that's why I saw their redesigns and stuff. I was like, oh shit, that's freaking. I mean, I love Tides Might Never Mutant, so I was like, oh, that's awesome. Like I don't know if I was super impressionable back then or if I was just that accepting of like change. I'm glad I am though, because I looked at that and I said, whoa, that's cool.
Yeah, I think the first game that I figured out about on the internet was Wrath, because I remember I would print out the screenshots and take them on the bus and show them to this other kid who liked Crash.
That's fucking cool.
Like, they were fucking little low-res 320 by 240 ass screenshots, and they're like, oh, the fucking look at this one. And like they got the stupid fucking GameSpy like watermark on it. It's like, oh, you can only see like a quarter of the fucking picture because the watermark's as big as the resolution of the screenshot. It's printed out on paper, and I had low toner, so it's like it's like fucking washed out.
Yeah. No, I did the same thing with Titans. I love that the screenshots and the previews and the character design so much that for a time on my wall, and it's the wall that if you look at my live action videos where I'm talking about something like my older stuff, that wall you see behind me, I have like a Ruby poster and like some amiibo and like, you know, stuff hanging up on the wall. But before that, like a long time ago, around that time, I plastered my wall with the printouts of like the characters and stuff. They were all low res and everything. Oh my god, man. I was fucking hyped for that game.
I mean, that's another thing that I wish they would do more now, is like put out those cast shots.
Fucking yes!
You get the whole lineup of characters. I think the only one they've done it for is Insane Trilogy since it came back, and it was like a really bad render.
Yeah, some of those renders weren't even fine. Like Entropy ended up looking different than in that render.
Yeah. Like that. So like it was out of date, and it was like on this stark white background, and it just looked real gross because the lighting was all weird and didn't look anything like the game looked.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's pretty much the history there. So maybe we can jump on to 2 of 5 and hope we can get through them relatively quickly.
Yeah. Okay, so with that thought in mind, having to speed through a little bit, I'll combine these next 2 questions. I usually ask them separate, but for this one, I'll combine them. So, which Crash game is your favorite, and which one's your least favorite? And what are your favorite aspects from your favorite game, and the least favorite from your least favorite game?
Favorite is hard. I usually say Crash 2. Crash 2 is probably the favorite. Crash... I'm gonna give you like 3 of them, and we'll consider them an even weight tie. Insane Trilogy Crash 1, Crash 2 either version, and Titans. Those are pretty much on even footing, where like when I think about them, I'm like, yeah, those are good.
Sweet.
Especially Crash 1 and Titans share this. One of the favorite things about them is like the sense of progression. There's like an adventure feel to it. Like you're going from A to B. There's not like... A lot of people like the Warp Room stuff, and to some degree I do. Crash 2 is a favorite simply just because of like the gameplay and like the secrets in it are good, and I like the moves. I like the moveset better than I do in Warped when it's kind of expanded on. But 1 and Titans are really probably a little bit higher, just because I like that more than anything.
Yeah.
So, I'll get to that in a minute. I was going to say something about Crash 4, but if we don't keep on focus, we're going to be here all day. Yeah, and so those are like the top 2, and then Crash 2 is like on even footing with them, but just for slightly different reasons. And then least favorite is really hard to quantify, because I've played like a lot of like the drizzling shit mobile phone ones too, like the old Java shit. So like, if I have to be like totally fair and say like something released on a home console or home handheld, Boom Bang is definitely my least favorite. Just to keep it fair with the favorites, I'll give a bottom 3.
Okay.
Boom Bang, Mind Over Mutant DS, and I was going to say Titans GBA, but I didn't even play enough of it to tell you. Like, I just didn't even bother getting through that one. So, in the interest of including only things that I played pretty far in, and I didn't finish Mind Over Mutant DS either, but I played enough to, like, really be sure.
Yeah.
So a different third would probably be... I really don't care for the Huge Adventure very much.
Okay.
Like, as a kid, it was pretty cool. It was like, oh, Crash on the Go, Crash on the Go. But, like, I don't really like the way it looks, and some of the level design is kind of just like... So, Entranced is way better, but it's still, like, not in the upper half. Like, I think that's pretty solid answer. I think the thing about the Boom Bang I don't really have to expound on. I don't think it just it's unbalanced. The parts of it that are fun are buried in all the parts that aren't. You constantly have shit popping up on your screen because for some reason the AI can use the cheat shit. And just the only good thing to come out of Boom Bang is the Viscount.
He's cool. I can appreciate his design, and I did actually include him in one of my videos I made for Nitrofield about characters who should make an appearance as a playable racer. He could have been really fun.
I'm salty that he didn't make it in, but I'm hopeful that he'll be in the mobile game because Steven Jarrett, or whatever his name is, the game director on that. Yeah. I follow him on Twitter. He's always like, he's knee deep in all the Crash shit. He knows all the crap. He's if the Viscount and the fucking park drone don't show up in Crash on the Run, I'll be very shocked.
That's amazing. Yeah, it's very telling. It's interesting how you see a Huge Adventure on the lower end of the spectrum because that was I think my first Game Boy game, and I was like 8 years old. I got it for my birthday. Like I got my Game Boy and that game and like some other little racing game on my 8th birthday, and I did like it. Like I know they rehashed a bunch of stuff, and it was one of that was when I first heard of Vivi. So like, getting to see how they like went back and try to see like what worked for the older games and try to translate that into like a smaller bite-sized, version of that. It's not exactly original. They take all kinds of stuff from even the sprites themselves come from the older games, but
and I should pepper that with a little bit of perspective that I just generally I had Game Boys and stuff, and like I have good memories of them, but like just in general, I was never much of a handheld person. Like I feel like even like some of the more important stuff that I played on handheld, I actually played legally as a backup on my computer. I don't think that I like so like the handheld games that I like a lot are games that I played like on a bigger screen that just so I don't think I ever really played Huge Adventure or Entranced in that way. So like they're kind of marred by the fact that like I just remember them on this tiny little screen and like being uncomfortable sitting and looking down and but like I said, I do have legitimate complaints like the level design is a little iffy and whatever.
Yeah.
But it is what it is.
Okay, so you did in the other like first half almost like hour or so of the podcast talk a bit about this. I just want to know if there's anything else a little bit more if there's anything you might have left out or anything like other series or stuff you can drop for this question. But in that gap where after Mind Over Mutant and the mobile games, there was nothing up until E3 2016 when Sean Layden came up on stage to announce Insane before we knew it was Insane and his inclusion in Imaginators. What were you doing in that time to fill the void with no Crash? Like, I know you still had your connections and stuff and you knew about projects that ended up getting canceled, but while they're still in development, is there anything else on the gamer side? Like, I don't like using that term a whole lot, but like stuff you were playing, a series you were finding and getting into, like what were you doing in that time?
So I will say one thing, like, stuff getting canceled, I didn't find out about most of like those other Activision things until pretty much when everybody else did. Like the
really?
Like I think there was that that one with the poster where he looks like a Skylander, but they insist it wasn't.
Yeah, I remember that.
That was a Vicarious Visions thing, apparently, and I think it was... I think it might have been Mike Stout. Somebody, he did like a stint at Active. He's there now, but he's been around different places. It was while he wasn't working there. Somebody asked him while he was a while before this, like if he knew anything about it, and he kind of was like, yeah, it never got off the ground. What you saw in that thing is pretty much what I know about it. And like it was dead before I even got here. So like, I'm not even, like, to be honest with you, I'm not even sure that game was from around the time people found out about it, because that was like 2013 when that poster got put out. Oh. And like, I think he was, and I think, I mean, I don't religiously follow this guy's career or anything, obviously, but I think he was there for something to do with the first couple of Skylanders. So I would think that if it was before his time, it was before Landed even got canceled. Or like was something that they were working, like maybe Activision was exploring other ideas while Landed was going on, or like I said, I've got that giant tweet thread that I posted last year sometime, or maybe it was this year, God knows, without much shit going on right now. But that big tweet thread, like, I know they tried a couple of times, but I don't know the context of it. I don't know. Like, that game is admittedly one of the ones. So, like, I'm saying this now and realizing it may have been before Landed that happened. Like, maybe it was something VV did, because I know there were a lot of pitches in the Sierra Age. Like, there were a lot of pitches from different teams. I guess they were trying to figure out if they were going to stick with Radical, or... because all those were like 2005. Like, I don't know if the big fucking fist poster crash is from around then, but it could have been. I don't know that VV did that in 2013 or whatever. Because, like I said, just knowing who said what about it publicly, it may have been older. But, yeah, beyond that, Beyond that, I don't really know too much about any of that stuff. A lot of the time when you know stuff like that, you have to kind of piece together your own parts too. Like, if you know somebody's working on something and you know they work at whatever studio, then you know at least one thing happening at that studio is this. So you can kind of look around like what they're hiring for, and like you can look around who's been there and like what their history has been. And you can kind of know what they're looking for. And like sometimes they'll even just bold-faced tell you in the opening, it's like, we're looking for people with experience on platformers and cartoon style, like yada yada yada. So you're like, well, if there's a Crash thing that was happening there, then it's probably that team. So like a lot of the stuff that I figure out, people think that like I get from like, oh, somebody tells him he's got all these connections, and like I do have a few connections, yeah, but a lot of the time, and I get into this with different people, like Mott Wera. Me and him found out about the Spyro stuff a couple of years ago just because somebody mentioned Falcon, and they were like, there's this weird Twitter account that says Falcon McBob, and the @ is Spyro, and I was like, and then it hit me. I was looking at the Crash stuff a year before, and I was like, they have a project called Falcon, and like some of that shit you find out just because, like, I hate to call myself like a reporter or something, but it really is like investigative journalism. Yeah, like sometimes you know things because you go looking for things. But so like most of the stuff I know about Crash from the Activision years is me figuring it out. Connection wise, I wasn't really privy to things between Radical and Skylanders. Once the Crash Skylander thing happened, it was pretty easy to kind of, like I gave that whole story, it's kind of easy to get in touch with different people and make friendships and stuff that give me a little bit of inside access. Like, obviously I knew Crash 4 was coming a little bit early, how early I'll leave up to your imagination.
Yeah.
Painfully. But, like, you know less than people think you know. Like, people are like, oh, JumpButton tweeted this GIF, he knows something. And, like, I'm like, no, I don't. Not right now. And it's like, you realize this is my personal Twitter account. Sometimes I'm just depressed. So some people, so I'm posting a sad GIF. It has nothing, the game's not gonna suck, guys. But then, other times, you know way too much and you're like painstakingly trying not to hint. You're like there have been times where, like, especially with CTR, where, like, I would have known, like, I think it was Rustland. I knew about that mad early. Like, I saw it mad early, and I had to sit on it for, like, a week or two, and I was like, I can't, like, I'm sitting there going, I can't say anything about The Huge Adventure. I can't say a damn thing about Crash of the Titans. I can't say anything about this and that, because if I do, somebody who knows something might think I'm hinting it. Like, and you don't want anybody to fight, like, because sometimes, and I don't think this was one of these instances, but sometimes you know when you're not supposed to know, and you're like, if anybody's watching me and they see me accidentally hint something, they'll think I did it on purpose, and then they'll think I know, and then they'll find out that I know all of these people, and then they'll look at all those people, and these people, and they'll figure, and like a lot of the time, the people that I get stuff from aren't even fucking people who are related to the company. So, like, if you try to, like, that's the crazy thing about that kind of shit. And, like, I know a couple of, like, YouTubers, not even YouTubers, just, like, people in, like, speedrunning servers. Like, somebody, it was a while ago. I don't think it was Crash 4. It may have been CTR. But, like, there was, like, a server, somebody DMs me and they're like, they just dropped a fucking screenshot on me, and I'm like, how do you have that? And they're like, I don't know. Somebody DM'd it to me. And I don't know them. And I'm like, and so that's why I keep my fucking mouth shut. Because if you go and you tell somebody, and then they tell somebody, and then they tell somebody, and they tell somebody, and, like, I'm not gonna lie to you, there are times where, like, if something is particularly of interest to somebody, like the dingo dial thing, like, if I had known about that early, I can tell you I would have told exactly one person, because she is a fucking huge dingo dial fan, and she's like a fucking physicist now, who spends, like, no time on the internet. Like, and probably doesn't even know now that Dingo Dial's in the game because she's so busy. I would have passed her a DM on that. Like, I think anybody who says that they never say anything to anybody is just flat out lying, because I don't think it's human nature. But you have to know that you can be trusted, and you have to trust people if you want to be in situations like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's a scary thing. Like, people are always like, oh, I wish I knew things early. No, you don't. Because it's fucking terrifying. You might accidentally hint something and then somebody's mad, or, like, you get told something from PR and you tweet something vague about it, and they're like, you gotta take that down. And I'm like, if I take it down, somebody's gonna fucking know that it's real. And they're like, yeah, I know, I should have told you can't post it yet, but you gotta take it down. And then you gotta take it down. So, like, you don't want to go through that.
Yeah.
You don't, like, unless you were in, right now, I'm less iffy on it, because right now anything that I get from PR is for high budget affair. So, like, I have an actual venue to, like, put it through, and that, like, so far I've been cranking those out in a day. Like, just because it's the nature of how I work. I spent, like, 10 hours yesterday working on high budget affair for today.
Uh-huh.
But, so, like, now that I have that venue and it's a little bit on delay, like, I feel so much more comfortable, because, like, even if they sent me something right now, like, if they sent me a fucking launch trailer and they're like, we want you to release it first, I'd be like, It's gonna be next Monday. Like I know I'm not gonna fuck anything up. I'm not gonna slip up because I have everything. Like I have this show planned out, and that's what I'm doing things with now. It's like when they send me stuff, even if they send me Call of Duty stuff all the time, and they know I don't play Call of Duty.
Yeah.
But they're like, they send it to me, and they're like, if you want to tweet it, tweet it. And I like every once in a while I'll tweet it because I'll look at it and I'll be like, it looks good. Like I played Warzone a little bit when they sent it out, and I was like, I played like a couple hours of Warzone, and I got to this point where I got stuck. I crouched on a watchtower or something, and I was up like on the top of the tower, and I crouched down. I got stuck in the geometry, and I had to wait for the game to end to die. And I was like, that put me off, and I never went back to it, even though I had a lot of fun playing it. It's not my thing, but they still send it to me. I'm like, thanks. Because, I'm appreciative, but like, now that I have high budget affair, I feel like I have a venue to actually like cover things that are not quite me because I can wrap them in humor. Like Tony Hawk isn't probably something that I would have done a video or even a tweet on before, but I asked them and they were like, yeah, you can play Tony Hawk. And I was like, well, cool. And I was like, I'm planning on making like a 2-video thing on it, and they're like, yeah, it sounds good. And like so now I've wrapped that into high budget affair, and high budget affair has like an ongoing story, which is purely by design, because if I run out of shit from Activision or any of the other companies that send me PR, then I have something to fill time with. I can just tell the story. But there's always that show in the show to put like interviews and reviews and stuff like that. You should come on High Budget Affair, by the way, because it is an interview show too.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, you come on there and we'll... And I'm just telling you up front, it's like Space Ghost. The interviews are going to be misconstrued. Nothing that makes you look bad, but like, you've seen the alien host, and he's a dick. He's an idiot. The crow's a bitch. You're like one of the 30 people who've seen the damn thing.
I like it.
But, I'm proud of it. It's probably one of my favorite things I've worked on in a long time. So I'll keep making it even if people don't watch it. But, that's the YouTube algorithm. If you crank something out long enough, YouTube goes, okay, fine, we'll show it to people.
I'm still waiting for that. Been doing this shit for 5 years.
Yeah. Yeah, I put this up. It takes me 15 hours to animate, which is bad for if you see how unanimated it is. But like the lip sync is what takes the longest, and I only have like open mouth, closed mouth, because I was like, I am not fucking lip syncing this. But like, I was gonna have them just go like flap, 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 but then I realized that looks ugly and stupid. So then I started syncing at least the flaps to like the syllables, and that looks good. I'm like, that looks fine. Why would you ever do lip sync? But so I'll put that up, and it'll get 100 views in a week. I could literally go in there and record that Crash 4 demo, which we still need to talk about.
Yeah.
I could go record that demo, talk over it, fart it out on YouTube right now, and have it had 1,700 views by the end of the night. Just because it's Crash Bandicoot, and my fucking channel is algorithmed into the Crash Bandicoot recommendations. I could literally take Crash anything, smear it, and like print out a screenshot, smear it with dog shit, and put it on YouTube, and literally say in the title, Crash Bandicoot dog shit screenshot, and it would get like 500 views just because of that. I hate the YouTube algorithm.
I'm curious to see how many people are going to find you through this somehow, if just because your name's in it. Just see like what happens.
Oh yeah, 2 months ago, whenever it was when I signed up to be on this, that was my whole goal, was to have a show that I hadn't made yet so I could plug it on here. I was thinking ahead, foreteller. But to answer your damn question, that actually just spurred my memory, foreteller. Kingdom Hearts was a big one for me. I played Kingdom Hearts 1 when it came out and loved the shit out of it. And I played Kingdom Hearts 2 when it came out and loved the shit out of it, even though I didn't play Chain of Memory, so I didn't know what the fuck was going on in 2. But that was honestly a little bit because I wasn't paying attention. I feel like I loved those games and I was like really into them, but it didn't really click as like a big fan thing until 2010 when Birth by Sleep came out on the PSP. literally, that was the year I graduated high school in 2010. God forbid. And I got Birth by Sleep on PSP, and I literally stayed on the couch for a week doing nothing from wake till sleep but playing Birth by Sleep on the PSP until I beat all 3 stories and the final story. And, like, for some reason after that, I didn't play Dream Drop Distance, which came out 2 years later, because it was on the 3DS. But I watched, like, a playthrough of Dream Drop. And then for some reason, when Kingdom Hearts 3 got announced, I was like, fuck yes! Yeah! Like, super into it all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Like, I don't remember exactly when I clicked over into being, like, a mega fan of it, but, like, when that got announced and it took fucking 4 years to come out. Oh, no, 6. Because they announced that in 2013.
Yeah.
And it was on the It was on Luminous Engine, and then they realized that fucking sucked, so they put it on Unreal instead, which is a running theme in the industry.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so that filled a lot of my time, because, like, I'd play through those a lot. And, like, whenever you do a playthrough of an RPG, it's obviously, like, somewhere between 20 and 100 and something hours, so, like, it fills a lot of time. Like, I'd also do a lot of replaying Crash. I did a lot of Uncharted, like... I started trying to do the generic YouTube thing, like back in 2011, where it was like just commentaries. And I did some Uncharted playthroughs, but it was only the online, because I was like, everybody fucking plays the single player. You want to see people suck it online. So I did online, and those did fairly well. They're still on my channel, they're just unlisted, because I'm one of those people who, like, after a couple of years, even though I don't feel like I've changed, I look at my old stuff and I'm like, yeah, I mean, I'd still say all that, but I just, and I hide it. I don't think I'll do that to High Budget Affair, because High Budget Affair is just unfiltered Adult Swim parody shit. But, yeah, I mean, I also played what Ratchet games came out, and I didn't really play a lot of stuff. Like, I would play like a couple games a year, and I feel like I've been that way since Crash died. But now that it's come back, I've been more into stuff. Like, here lately I've played Death Stranding all the hell and back. And I've got so many games on the PS4, like digital, just from like PS Plus and sales and stuff. Where like I think I bought Horizon last year around Christmas, like as a Christmas gift for myself, and I played it Christmas morning, and I like played 3 or 4 hours of it, really liked it, and then never touched it again. It's been almost a year.
Well, so, I bought it. Wait, sorry, say again?
I'd have to start over if I played it now, because I don't remember how to fucking play it, and I'm far enough into it now that, like, if I start trying to play it and I don't know what I'm doing, I'll get fucking rammed.
I pre-ordered it. The poster's on my wall. I did one stream of it, and I haven't touched it since.
Yeah, like... It's one of those things where, like, I like the concept of it, and, like, I want to play it, but, like, I just never do, and I don't know if it's, like, a mental health thing where I just, like, bar myself out of doing things that I would enjoy, because, like, I've had Tony Hawk for upwards of a week or two now from them sending it to me, and I'm like, I played it enough to get through, like, the parks on each one. Like, but I haven't done any of the multiplayer, and I haven't done any of the whatever that third thing on the menu is. I don't even know if you have it or know what I'm talking about, but there's like, it's like the Insane Trilogy menu where it's like Tony Hawk 1, Tony Hawk 2, and then there's like this third thing where they have like other modes. I haven't touched that.
Yeah, no, I did look at that stuff, because what they did, which is really weird, is from the menus and how you navigate shit in the older games, yeah, they would have like your single player experience, which was like, okay, career mode. That's like what, you know, you go through on 1+2 as well. But then they would have they were separate, and there was like Trick Attack and like Free Skate and stuff like that. So they bundled that into that third one. That's what that is.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, not to spoil my Alien Friends review next week, but I enjoy it quite a bit. But like, I've been enjoying it in the context of playing it to review it.
Yeah.
And, like, I want to be playing it when I'm not recording, but I just don't. And I don't, like I said, I don't know if it's, like, a mental health thing where, like, just... Because, I mean, it's no fucking secret. If you've ever followed me on Twitter, I have, like, bad obsessive-compulsive disorder and fucking major depression. And like light PTSD, and these are all diagnosed. I'm not pulling them out of my ass like some people think people like me do, but like it just, sometimes you can feel perfectly fine, but there's just like this block where it's like, I don't want to fucking do anything. Like, I don't feel sad or anything. I just don't want to fucking do anything.
I
so I just don't. Yeah. And I feel like that's kind of what High Budget Affair has been helping me with lately, is like, I go out on Twitter before I've even touched the fucking episode, and I go, it's coming Monday. And then I feel guilty about 5 p.m. on Sunday, and I fucking make it. And it works. It's the same way I got through high school. If I spent more than 8 hours the night before on a fucking project, like if I spread it out and did this and this, I would overthink shit. I would like want to be like, I gotta start over. And I would end up getting a fucking C. But then I fucking cranked the paper out in a couple hours the night before, putting my ass into it, fucking like really focusing in on it, getting into that fucking flow. Yeah. And then I'm like, then I get an A. So I was like, well, I've learned very quickly that I am not the person who fucking works on shit over a long period of time, which is funny as fuck when you realize I've worked on Crystal's Wrath for 8 years. Close to 9. Because we didn't announce it until I had already been fucking with it for 2 years.
Shit.
But that's the thing. That's the thing, and people might have figured this out with Crystal's Wrath anyways, is we don't work on it all the time. We can't.
Yeah.
It's a fucking it's a hobby project. We can't, like, I get paid to make somebody else's game now. I can't work on Crystal's Wrath all the time, and like sometimes you just don't want to. And like the version of it that we have right now, let me give you a little exclusive. Sweet. At least I don't think I've said this anywhere publicly yet. Maybe this will spur us on to make it a little faster, because we haven't been working on it real recently. I did open it up the other day and make a couple of death routes, which that's the thing with Crystal's Wrath, is it's very open and it's very non-linear. You sail around the Wampa Islands. Don't fucking go into it thinking you're going to see Insanity, Wampa, and Cortex Island, because the more we work on it, the more we're realizing that we kind of just want to do our own version. And like, you can, at the very least, I want to put like the silhouettes in the background. Like, you can see Insanity, Wampa, and Cortex Island, but like all of the places on those islands have been done so many times in Crash games. And like, spoiler for Crash 4, apparently the first world is Insanity Island. So like,
yeah,
especially now that that's going to be fresh again, I don't really want to touch them.
Yeah.
And that's not to say because like there's a whole, we have Insanity Island in the game, like completely mapped out. Like, you can explore the whole island. So like, it's in there. So if it doesn't end up in the game, then we cut it. It's not like, oh, it's too big, I don't want to make it. We made Insanity Island. Like, it's like you can climb up to Skull Rock and you can look off of it and see other shit in the distance, and it's the coolest fucking thing. And it makes every time I think about it, it makes me want to work on it again. But like, even if we cut Insanity Island, there will be other tall shit you can climb and look off of. But Crystal's Wrath is like the story of the game, and this is your little exclusive here. The story of the game is, if you ever played Sonic Unleashed, like how it opens up and Sonic's already in the space station fucking up Eggman's plan. Yeah. It's like that. It opens up and Crash, you literally play through the end of a game that you didn't get to play. You play through the first level of this game, Crystal's Wrath, but it's acting like it's the last level of a game that doesn't exist. You're going through the ending of that imaginary game, and you get to Cortex, and you have a little boss fight with Cortex, and it's just this little, it's like Twinsanity. It's not hard. It's just, look at me, I'm shooting you, whatever. And then you fuck with him, and then you fall to Earth. The whole space station comes barreling fucking down, and Crash and Cortex are like having like a cartoon squabble where they're like rolling around on a dust ball, falling like a roller brawl, and they hit the ground, and he fucking Cortex lands ass first on the Master Crystal, and it cracks in half. And when he lands on it, it fucking pisses off the Ancients, and they're like, alright, that's enough of that shit. And the Ancient in charge of the Master Crystal, who is very unimaginatively named Crystal, she comes out of the crystal, and she's like, what the hell are you doing? And like, Cortex is like Cortex runs, and like Aku and Crash think that that she's talking to him, like because he's always stealing the crystals and this and that and that. And she's like, "No, I'm talking to you." Because you two dicks are the ones who are always actually abusing the crystals. He tries to get them, he never has them. You are the guys trading them for fucking prizes at Von Clutch's carnival. You're the ones holding your fucking door open with a crystal. You're the ones locking masks away and sucking the crystal's power. You dicks are the ones doing it. And Aku's like, oh my god. And so she takes Crash and Aku to Ancient Court, and you get fined billions of mojo. and then she spits you out. You're on planet arrest. And the whole game of Crystal's Wrath, you go around and you sail the islands and you just try to make money. Because you gotta pay that fucking fine.
That's awesome. I like it.
That's the game. Like the story is less focused on doing it. Like it's the opposite of what Crash 4 is doing. It's not this closed, focused narrative. It's we give you the intro and there's an outro. All the shit in between is like little mini stories. Like you go to Pinstripe's Casino and you go to like a native village and like there will be a native hut and it's like a haunted hut and you like help this guy. Like it's going to be full of just like generic NPCs. We're doing it in a way where like there's a couple of groups of NPCs. Like we call them fuckernauts. I don't know why we call them fuckernauts, but they're the park drones. There's park drones. There's the natives. There's lab assistants who are both AWOL from Cortex and still working for Cortex. You know, like, and the reason we picked those groups is because they're like you can make one model, and then you can put accessories on it. You're like, hey, I'm fuckernaut number 1, and I look normal. And then I'm fuckernaut number 2, and I've got a hat. And then you just do a different voice for them, and like that way we can come up with little mini stories to tell, and the game is just completely open. And that also gives us the benefit of like when we're working on it, there's no set size it has to be. So whenever we get sick of making it, we can just make the ending and tie that bow on it. And just adjust the economy. And there's already, like... And I always feel a little guilty when I say this, because it feels a little bit like I'm blowing smoke up people's ass, but then I really think about it. No, it's true. Like, if you took every island and death route that we have made for Crystal's Wrath right now, and you put it in this open ocean, and you went through, and you sailed through, and you did everything that we have to do right now, it would take you a long time. It would take, like, hours.
Wow.
It's already a beefy game for being a fan game, and like people think that, oh, they're just not working on it. No, we don't work on it all the time, but when we do work on it, we work on it and we bust ass for like 2 or 3 months at a time, and there's a lot of game in there. And at any moment, if we decide we don't want to do it anymore, we can just, like I said, put the ending on it, tie it up in a bow, and it'll be a complete game. And it may not have as many NPCs as we imagined, or as much as you would think 10 years of working on it would make. But at some point in the last couple of years, we really narrowed down what we wanted it to be, and there's a lot of content in there. And I really hope that we manage in the next year or so. I'm not going to put a promise on that, but the next year or so, I want to get year or two, let's say, I want to get something close to done, at least enough that we can put out like we can cut off like half of the ocean and be like put that out and say you can play this demo right now and you can play like hours of it, like, and we put stupid little mini games in, like when you drive your ship around there's like a claw on it and you can just stop the ship and dump the claw in the water and it's complete random chance, but you can sit there and fish for fucking treasure chests. And like I said, it's complete random chance, but you can just sit there and waste fucking 30 minutes digging these treasure chests out, and then like when you sail over to the casino and you can play blackjack and you can use the slot machines. And granted, the graphics on them aren't finished or anything. Like the table has no legs; it's just floating in space. But you can dead ass play blackjack, and Crash's hand comes up on the table and like does the hit me motion and like waves off the cards and
that's
like
awesome.
there's a lot of shit in the game, and like I said, I hope in the next year or two we are able to show that. But, I don't want to put out a demo where, like, half the graphics aren't done, and, like, you go to a building and you, like, hop up on the building next to it and you see that the other one doesn't have a ceiling because, like, we have a lot of stuff designed and in, but none of it's finished looking. And, like, we're the kind of people that, like, we don't want to be showing that. And so that's why we go long gaps without showing anything. Like that thing we put out a month or two ago, the Zelda thing where the camera goes up over you and you're like in a Zelda dungeon.
I was just watching that before this podcast.
Yeah, that looking as good as it did came together in like a week or two.
Damn.
So people underestimate how much work we can get done on it just working on it a couple months a year, because that's necessary to how we do it. Like that's what we have to do. That's the only way we can work on it. So people will come in and be like, you should just cancel it. The real Crash games are already coming out. And I'm like, but we're doing something different than they are. Like you've seen the Death Route videos and stuff. Like they're doing that now in their game, the flashback tapes. Like they're pretty much exactly what we do with our Death Routes. It's like really hard, precise Crash.
Yeah.
And but we have that Crash DNA in there, but we're doing something completely different from what they're doing. Like I feel like we fill the niche of a 3D Crash game that isn't I hate this word, but like the mainstream Crash. Our game is what Crash would have been if there was no gap of time between Mind Over Mutant and the next game.
Uh-huh.
Like it would have been that more evolved kind of free roaming thing with the DNA still in there.
Yeah.
I feel like. And so when people are like, oh, you should quit because they're making Crash 4, I'm like, yeah, but Crash 4 is a different kind of game. Like, I want both kinds of Crash. Like, I want to, to say nothing because we don't know what they're doing with, like, the timeline and stuff, but Crystal's Wrath, it's a fan game, yeah, but it continues right off the end of Mind Over Mutant. Like, like I said, there's that imaginary game in between, but, like, in our universe, Uka Uka doesn't like Cortex because he's betrayed him, and, like, there's, like, Brio's nowhere to be found, and, well, I take that back. You can find Brio in Crystal's Wrath, but his role hasn't really been nailed down yet.
Uh-huh.
And, like I said, we are cheap as hell. The reason Brio is in Crystal's Wrath is because we can model Brio by yanking Cortex's body and putting a Brio head on it. Because we're cheap. We're doing the Twinsanity method here.
Yeah.
Maximize where there's nothing. But, I forgot what you even asked to get me on that Crystal's Wrath tangent, but...
Well,
so, like, yeah, I think it was off the back of, like, I was doing that because there were no Crash games, because you asked about the gap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're getting a different series, and you were working on this. Yeah.
And, I mean, you gotta admit, a full-functioning Crash Bandicoot game that's built off the back of Unreal fucking Tournament 3... by the way, there's some, I don't know if you know of Sonic Game Development Kit. It's like an Unreal Engine Sonic fan game making kit that somebody put out. I can't ever pronounce his name. There's a little bit of DNA from that because the physics of the character and the camera system he had set up, and we asked him, we were like, can we rip this out and use it? And he's like, yeah. I was like, do you want to be credited? And he's like, you don't have to, but nonetheless, he is going to be. But like, yeah. So we use his camera and his base for the character. But I took the rest of it is all Unreal Tournament modified. Like you can tell when you look at it, it ain't got no DNA from that left. But the Crash, like our Crash, is actually under the hood. He started as Sonic. So, like, you got to think, I took that, and I did all the programming on Crash. Patrick has taken a lot of programming duties these days.
Yeah.
We've always both been jack of all trades, but him more so than me here lately. He did the crate reprogram lately. We reprogrammed our crates because they were pissing us off. Because there was, like, the crates were fine, but there was this one glitch, and we could not figure out where it was. So we just ripped the crates out and did new ones. and they work a lot better now.
Sweet.
But so I took that fucking Sonic fan game engine and I went inside of it and I fucking beat the shit out of it and made it a Crash Bandicoot game. And it took us months of R&D to get it from one to the other. But now, like, I can't... Like, I was obviously playing Crash 4 earlier. And, like, their idea of how Crash controls, you can tell they got to it from the same place we did. But it's on such a slight different thing. Like, our Crash carries a little bit more momentum. But you can, like, if you let go of the analog stick in the air, he stops. Just like Crash 2. Because that was...
Yeah.
Like, in my head, I was like, Crash 2, you want it precise. Like,
yes.
You can't do these box puzzle shits where you gotta go bounce, 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 bounce if you don't have that stop on a dime. They have that in Crash 4, but, like, it feels so much more sticky. Like, ours stops just as fast on a dime as theirs does in the air if you let go. But theirs, like, and I mean this lovingly, it's like they poured molasses over it. Like, when you stop, and it takes you a second to get used to it because you're like, you feel like you have less control than you do at first. And again, I mean this in a good way. Crash 4, like, you constantly think you need a double jump, but you don't. And the game, like, when you double jump, you get your gravity kind of, like, I wouldn't say it quite halves, but, like, they knock, like, 10-15% off your gravity after you double jump.
Uh-huh.
And if they don't, then they did something to the animation to make it feel like you do. And it really, like, intrinsically teaches you that when you do that double jump, you cannot double jump all the time. Because when you're doing, like, the Kapunawa stuff in Snow Way Out and you're going across those ice blocks, if you double jump, you're fucked. Because your mask runs out of power and then you fucking fall. Because the platforms speed up. And they teach you, like, very quickly. And this is why I think the modern mode benefits, because you can die over and over and over and over and over and don't have to worry about it. But you learn very quickly because just the way the game feels, it's very smart and precise and sticky. Like, you feel like... But you get, like, this rhythm. So, like, the platforms are coming along and they don't look like you can jump to it with one jump, but you can. And once you learn that and you get it down, like, the game flows so well. It's so precision-based. But when you look at Crystal's Wrath, ours is very focused on being, like, free and open. So we didn't want to require so much precision to where we feel like we're weighing down, like, you getting around. Because there have been versions of Crystal's Wrath where, like, just trying to get from point A to point B, you're, like, slide jumping just because you're like, good God, this is slow. So, like, we sped our Crash is sped up a little bit, and, like I said, you can still stop on a dime. So one thing I've learned from this is that little yellow marker circle in Crystal's Wrath, for some reason, like, we have a drop shadow, so, like, you can see it on platforms and stuff, but for some reason, and we have not worked it out yet, the decal will not cast on the crates. Huh. So I've been thinking of ways to, like, mitigate that, because there are places in, like, the death routes, and, like, I can think of one level I made a little while ago, maybe a month ago, where you go around this kind of destroyed temple on this little island, and the camera, that's one thing that helps a lot, is we've started locking the camera. It's like when you get up to something, it's like a landmark, and you're climbing up the side of it, the camera will, like, stick to the side of the thing, so you can't turn it.
Yeah.
And that helps, because then you get, like, the reference of, like, okay, forward is forward, right is right, you know, so we can afford a little bit of imprecision. But, like, when you're in the 3D sections, and you're, like, trying to land on... And, like, I've made it a rule of thumb, there's no single crates. So, like, if you're trying to jump off of a thing, over a hole, onto a box and back, I try to make it a rule that there's always, like, a cluster of 4, so you can land in the center and break them and bounce off instead of having to land on one.
Uh-huh.
But there's a couple places I break that rule just because I'm an asshole. But we try to do that, for instance. In Crash 4, there's a spot in the timeline level, Ship Happens, where, like, there's a TNT floating in the air, and on each side of the TNT there's a regular crate.
Yeah. You
have such precision control that you can pick off those crates and then land on the TNT, and at no point do you ever feel like, oh god, oh, I'm gonna fall off. Because, like, once you get it down, there's just, like, this very, very precise feel to it. And, like, it's so far the opposite of Crystal's Wrath, but not in a bad way. Like, I'm not saying Crystal's Wrath doesn't do it right. Like, we're bad at art. We're trying to do a different thing. But you can see how they got there from the same point we left from. And that's what I mean when I say we've got the same Crash DNAs. We've got, like, you know, the crates and the spinning and the monkey bar, like all the stuff that you know is there, but we've wired it into this open world in ways that people honestly usually insist that Crash shouldn't or can't, and I disagree.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I think you said you had one more.
No, I'm loving this, man. No, don't get me wrong. Like, I know we've been going for like over 2 hours, but no, this is good stuff, man. That's really, really awesome. I'm looking forward to any kind of playable demo or anything for Crystal's Wrath, because I don't remember when I found it. It was probably through Pat's stuff, but
yeah, because he's a little bit bigger of a deal than me, whether he knows it or not.
But no, I was super into the idea of it and seeing it come together and the previews and such, and you guys just fucking around with the animations and everything. And the models or whatever, it was awesome. It was really funny, so I was totally on board. But yeah, getting to hear it from you yourself, it's really, really cool. I'm glad that I've got that opportunity.
See, the other thing is that makes us have to stick to that now. Like the plot. We haven't done any of the cutscenes yet because we have a hard rule in Crystal's Wrath that we do not animate a cutscene we're not going to use. We do not make a character we're not going to use. So, like, we have Crash, Aku, Cortex, technically Koala Kong, a couple of the enemies, and that's it for character models that are done because the knowledge that we've gained moves so fast that, like, we didn't want to have to go, like, oh, well, now we got to fucking redo Pinstripe, which we do have to do because our old Pinstripe sucks. Not, like, visually, it's not, like, ugly, but, like, it's not modeled smartly, and, like, the arms will clip and all this crap, and it's like, so we have to redo them, so let's just redo them once, not 3 times, because the game takes 10 years. So we have a hard rule that we don't make anything we're not ready to use, which is why there's so much programmer art. But, like, from a game standpoint, like I said, there's a fuckload of shit to do. Like, you can play it for a long-ass time.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's just at some point we have to eventually buckle down and make it pretty, which is why we started doing, like, that Zelda kind of level. Like, all of the art in there is modular pieces. There's not a single piece of unique art in there. The way we do it is we have, like, different textures that we can paint on stuff to make it look dirty or make it look older, and we have, like, themes. Like, there's that one which is, like, temple stuff. That one, there's, like, an island that uses those same building blocks. It looks like a totally fucking different place. And then we have, like, a snow one, and we're gonna have, like, we have, like, deserts and that, just because it's easier. And once we figured that out here lately, we've just been popping shit together, and it looks good out of the box, and we don't have to come back later and put art over it and do that. And, like, it's just art from the get-go. So once we figure out a way to do that with all the other shit that we need, like, I finally talked him into doing a compromise on the story cutscenes. The only cutscenes that are going to be actual animated cinematics are the intro and the outro. All the other stuff is going to be like tag team, where you walk up, you talk to somebody, the camera goes over Crash's shoulder, and they just stand there and they talk. Uh-huh. Because I was like, if A, saves us a lot of time, and B, we can make that programmatically. So once it's in, all you got to do is just wire it up. Anytime you want a new cutscene, it's like, oh, here, this guy's going to tell Crash about his fucking collection of rare minerals, and he lost them, and you have to go find them. Anytime we want to do that, like, once we have that in and it's programmatically done, you can add one in a day, and you can add, like, a whole story to an island in a day, and that's way better than having to animate all these cinematics, because I am a person who really loves narrative, and I will not be able to fucking resist putting in more and more story. So at some point I realized we have to buckle down and just accept that we're not going to do great looking cinematics. We're just going to do fucking canned animation talking cutscenes whenever there's a story beat that needs to happen, and then the intro and the outro can look good. That's fine. But, yeah, I got back on Crystal's Wrath again, so go on.
So my final question for the podcast, now that we've been talking a little bit more about some Crash 4 stuff, the final question to cap everything off is, how excited are you for the game? What aspects are you looking forward to the most? And what are your like overall thoughts and opinions and experiences with the demo?
Okay, so I'm looking forward to it a lot, obviously. I'm terrified of spoilers. This demo, dude, I'm glad that they sent it to me early, even though it was a couple days, whatever. But like, I'm glad I got it. But while I was playing it, I was like thinking about, like, I was waiting for the download. It's like 8 gigs. I hope I don't get in fucking trouble for saying that.
Should I bleep
but
it?
it's like, no, I think it's fine. By the time you put this out, it'll be past it coming out anyways, I think.
Yeah.
But,
okay.
It's like, its demo is like 8 gigs, and supposedly the game is 25. Someone told me earlier. I don't know how accurate that is. Maybe you know. But, so it's about a third of the disk space of the full game. So, knowing what I know about Unreal, that's not unreasonable to think that like all that's in there is the levels that are in there and that's it. But there is a lot of overhead because like I can tell you the menus are probably in there. Like there's probably an options menu and stuff in there and it's probably just turned off with a switch. Like that kind of shit's probably in there. I'm just fucking terrified somebody's gonna crack into it. And like I know it was easier for them to do on the Switch stuff because they were getting it. Somebody was dumping it, and then the data miners were getting it and fucking getting that dumped copy off of the eShop, which, by the way, if it's not obvious, I do not condone, because it's technically not super duper legal to do. But it's easier because Switch is super vulnerable.
Yeah.
in ways that PS4 and Xbox One are not, and that's not to say they're not vulnerable. It's people cracked right into Tony Hawk, but it's an Unreal Engine game, which means you can compartmentalize very well. Like we could shit out a demo of Crystal's Wrath, and this is Unreal 3 for us, not Unreal 4. Unreal 4 is even better about it. Unreal 3, we could shit out a demo and like put 2 islands in it, throw a menu that lets you pick which island you go to. And even though those islands are technically part of like a big map where like the ocean is, we're loading them in and out, so they have to be their own separate files. So we could take the separate files, slap a skybox in them, tie a menu to them, and only include those 2 maps, the menu, the crash model, all the crate models, basically the stuff you need, all the environment art, and then everything else gets fucking lopped off. So if they were smart about how they put this demo together, there's not going to be a lot of stuff to find in there, but all it takes is one person forgetting to move a config file, and then somebody goes through it, and it's like you find a variable that's like B has found MILF trophy, and then whoops, now I know MILF trophy's in the game, and you know, God forbid nobody knows what MILF trophy is. I hope enough people follow me on Twitter to know about MILF trophy. I didn't come up with it; Robokai did. My fucking quote-unquote boss over at Summit Sphere, the Tony Grayson, the creator of Anton Ball Deluxe, but graciously paying me to help him make a shitpost of a game. But it's fun, and you should play it sometime. But the point I was trying to get at is I hope people know what I mean when I say MILF trophy. And B, like it would take nothing to spoil it if there's just like one Boolean variable that's exposed that says like, oh, has beaten Uka Uka. It's like, oh, now I know there's an Uka Uka boss. Or it's like gem, like they have like a number that's like total gems, and then you know how many levels there are because you know how many gems there are per level. Like it's so easy for something to get spoiled just because they left something in there and somebody digs it up. So I'm really hoping they were clever about it. Like Vicarious Visions left some Switch stuff in the Tony Hawk demo, and people found that out real quick. So like, and I'm just gonna tell you, I'm pretty sure there's a fucking Switch port and PC port for Crash 4. I'd be surprised if there's not. My current theory is it'll come out October 2nd, and every quarter after that we'll get DLC, and then the fourth quarter, where it's been 1 year since the initial release, they'll fucking shit out the next-gen version. It'll be on next-gen PC and Switch, and those versions will come with all the DLC. And it'll be Crash Bandicoot. Who knows? It could be Platformer Game of the Year. Crash Bandicoot Game of the Year edition. Or whatever. But that's my that's my working theory. I don't have any inside information on that. This is not me teasing something. I'm saying that not because of you. I know you know. I'm saying that because of the people who will see it and then tweet at me and be like, oh, Switch game coming? Mm-hmm. I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you know what I do like about that, though? People having a pretty good idea that it's coming, or assuming it's coming, is that we don't have to see that stupid fucking picture people love to post where it's fucking Pauline in Mario Odyssey going, did you forget something? The Switch, maybe? I hate that picture, dude. Every time I think of Nintendo Switch, that picture pops in my head. I'm like, fuck off. But either way, back to the Crash 4 discussion. Yeah, I'm looking real forward to it. I'm scared of spoilers, especially when I got the PR for it. And I gotta tell you, I don't know if you got it or not, the PR for Crash 4, when it went out, the first time it went out, it was just the press release. You didn't get any assets or anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard that from a couple other people too. And like, I didn't get to do any of those fucking preview events or anything, but like, it made its way to me. Yeah. And I knew, like, so like all you had when it started was the press release. So you just see Crash Bandicoot 4, a true sequel, and this and that, and you're like, oh. Because you know me, I'm a big fan of the main line, the fucking main 7 games. I will admit to you fully, if they fucking take all the other stuff and they split it off into a timeline and throw it in a drawer and never use it again, I'm going to be a little pissed. Because, like, why are you, and I hate the word pandering, but it makes sense to me here, why are you pandering to all the people who fucked off after 1999 and came back when you paid out the ass to market it?
Yeah.
And not pandering to all the people who were here the whole time. That being said, Paulie Yan, he has a good habit of liking my tweets of me talking about it. And his little likes give me a wink and a nudge on some stuff sometimes. And I'm feeling pretty confident that they're not going to do that. I think if they do that, I don't think it will be done in a disrespectful way where it feels like, oh, none of that happened. It's all retconned. It's gone forever. Alternate universe. Because I don't think they will. And this is light spoilers for anybody who's been on a total blackout. Those flashback tapes. You see Crunch Bandicoot in the background of a level that supposedly takes place in 1996.
Yeah.
During Cortex's Bandicoot General experiments. You telling me they just put that in there to fucking be like, oh, fuck you guys, here's that thing you like, but it's not important anymore? No, I don't think they would do that. Yeah, and then you take that and you look at On the Run. On the Run is very clearly set after Mind Over Mutant. But it's also drenched to the fucking gills with Crash 4. There's Bumpa-berries. There's multiverse shit. It's literally the same plot.
Yeah.
Like, you're telling me they wanted to tie it in, but they don't want to tie it in so much that it, like, you can tell it's a sequel to Mind Over Mutant, but it's tied into Crash 4. My personal theory, and I'll eat crow on this if I'm dead ass wrong, and again, I don't know anything ahead of time. Crash 4, in my opinion, is going to be a midquel. It's gonna it makes you think all that shit's getting canned or cut off and put away. But it's actually gonna cram it all together. I'm talking this shit. It's gonna separate it all out at first. And it'll be like, this is the radical dimension, and this is the Traveler's Tales dimension. But then you go look at those games, and all those games clearly are canon to each other.
Yes.
And the giveaway to me is Paul Yan saying this is the 8th game. Because there ain't 8 games, motherfucker. There's like 20. There's close to 30. So the only way you get to the number 8 is if you got something in mind. And so from my perspective, I think they will separate it all out and pretend. They'll be like, oh, this. And then at the end of the game, they're going to take a big old trash compactor and they're going to cram all that shit together and then they're going to be like, surprise. And I genuinely think that's what's going to happen. I think that's what's going to happen at the end of Crash 4. And from a gameplay perspective, I tweeted about this earlier, but I figured I'd save it for this and then I'll tweet later. I'll be like, if you want to know what I think of Crash 4, go watch this. Even like, I hope you'll get it out before the game is out. But if you don't,
I'll try.
Who cares? Who gives a shit about my opinion, anyways? But I gave a little bit of a talk on the feel when I was talking about Crystal's Wrath. It's very sticky and precise, and it's hard as hell. Like they know modern mode is there, and they basically, if you pick retro mode, the game's like, fuck you. Fuck you, you think you're good enough for this. Like, Dino Dash especially, there's a part where there are platforms. There's a river of lava, and you're side-scrolling left to right. There's platforms that are moving through the lava right to left, but there are fucking things.
Yes.
That you have to slide under them, because you can't go over them.
Yeah.
But what you don't see in the old build is that there's these fucking lava bubbles that come up.
No, I did see that. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So the lava bubbles come up, and these fucking bubbles are on the perfect time to where you need within 3 or 4 frames of a perfect jump over the fucking bubble to land on the platform coming under the bridge thing so that you can slide jump under it. Because you literally have like a 2 or 3 frame window of Crash's ass hitting that bubble and your feet landing on the platform in time to slide under it. Because if you are even a fucking fraction of a second late and you slide, Crash just smacks his face and falls in the lava.
Shit.
And here's the fun part. There's a part where there's some stacked crates floating. So you gotta jump on them and bounce and bounce and bounce. And then the bottom one is one of those, the 5 bounce ones, where it's like bump, 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 and you get the 2 Wumpa.
Yeah.
So you gotta time getting off the platform onto that and then back onto the next platform with the crate breaking. And then then usually the platform is too far forward, so you have to fucking slide, double jump, and hope you land on the next one. And as it's coming under, and you fuck this up so many times that the game's like, alright, fuck it, come on. It gives you an Aku, and you have 1 Aku, and there's an Aku crate right at the checkpoint. So now you have 2 Akus. So you're going through, and that's fine, and you keep dying, and the game's like, alright, dickhead, fine. It gives you 2 Akus. So now when you get that Aku crate, you get the invincibility mask. Now here's the problem with that. When you get over to those bouncy crates that you need to time the bounces on, Aku breaks them.
Yeah.
So now you're freaking out. You can make the jump, but you have to keep doing these fucking jumps from the platform to the platform, and they sink when you step on them. So you have to go, you step on it, the crate's breaking, you're like, oh Jesus, and here comes the next one, and you jump to it, and you barely make it, and then, you're too late to slide under the thing, so you gotta wait again, and so, but it starts sinking, so you gotta jump, so you jump, and then the next one is coming in, and you land on it, but it's too soon to slide, but now it starts sinking when you slide, and when you slide under and you jump, you have to immediately see what's coming, and go, oh shit, I gotta land on that, and then they start throwing TNT in there. And this is not a death route. This is not a flashback tape.
It's the main level.
This is not a gym route. This is supposedly the middle of the game. And they're out here just rubbing your fucking face in it, going, fuck you. And you take it. And when you beat it, you're like, that was fun.
Well, see, that's what I like about Crash 4's philosophy. It's that they really took a look at how Crash 1 was built, because Crash 1 was built in that sort of same way. A lot of people, when they, those kinds of people that were like complaining and critiquing Crash 1 and Insane particularly hard, was just because of the cycles and what you have to do and having to time jumps and how platforms rotate around one another and when you're supposed to jump on them. And if anything, Stormy Ascent and Future Tense really prove like, yeah, no, you need to have this sense of, that's what I'm looking for. You have to be cognizant about it. You have to really make sure that you know how it works. You have to. Those levels in particular are for the fans, because if you've been there from the beginning, or if you've played those games over and over, then you've grown this awareness of how the timing goes, of how the platforms move, of how things work. And I love how damn near the entirety of Crash 4 is basically built on that. And that's something I can appreciate, because I do like that challenge, since I myself also, like I said earlier, grew up with Crash 1. So we're used to that already. You know, you and I in particular, we're used to that. So, like, getting to see how they twist that, make it even more of a fucking crazy chore, in the best way, of course, to make it through that stuff in Crash 4, like, I can appreciate that. I respect that.
Yeah, that's one of the things I'm looking most forward to about it, is because it's 3 levels in that demo, and it took me an hour and 15 minutes and something to just get through them.
Damn.
And let's be completely clear. I put out that tweet a couple hours ago, where I said, y'all making fun of game journalists, death counts are gonna fucking get a rude awakening. You are, but at the same time, did I have 150 something deaths on my Dino Dash? No, it was like 25, 30, but it ain't Baby Crash. This is the real deal Crash Bandicoot kick your ass game. And if this is what the game is offering in the middle of the story, oh boy, I look forward to the flashback tapes. Which, by the way, I don't know if you can pick the tapes up, because I haven't gotten to them without dying yet.
But they're there?
But they are there.
Sweet.
You can't unlock them, I'm sure, but they're in the demo, so you can see where they're going to be.
Okay.
They're in fucking asshole place. When I was playing through Snow Way Out, and I was like, man, this is pretty good. It's pretty hard. And I fucking find the flashback tape, and I'm like, fuck you. I'm like, this is getting to that point without dying is going to be such a pain in the ass for so many people. It's to the point where I genuinely, I mean this, I hope there are assist functions for some people. Because, it's that hard. I'm talking, this is, if you've ever played, the back half of Super Meat Boy or Celeste, we're talking about...
Meat Boy, yes.
We're talking about, some of that kind of tier shit, and this is in the middle of the fucking game. The Cortex stuff especially, they expect you to get... there's one part where there's an arrow crate under a line of nitros, and you have to get real close to the nitros and then dash to the side, and you can't get high enough to dash where you need to be with the regular bounce. So you have to hold down jump on the arrow to get extra air, but if you hold it all the way down, you'll hit the nitros. So you have to do this kind of finesse where you hold it to get a bit and then let off at just the right time to fucking dash over to the side. And it's going to be... if they really take advantage of the Cortex stuff especially, that's going to be a lot of hard stuff. And then, after you get through the Cortex part, and you go into the Crash part... And by the way, something I hope somebody does, I might do it when I go back in here in a minute. When you get to the part where you stop playing as Cortex, and you play as Crash, I went backwards for a while. I was like, well, how far back will they let me go? Because I was like, you can just go. I didn't want to go all the way to the beginning because the Cortex part is near the end. So I was like, I don't want to walk all the way back right now because I'm playing it for the first time. But I think they will literally deadass let you walk all the way back to the beginning of the level if you want. And when you go, all of where the crates would be for Crash have been broken by that timeline's crash.
Huh.
So
yeah,
it's just empty. And some of the enemies I think were dead. And so you get this reward where if you think oh, I'm going to go backwards, there's it's not all the shit's just there and you don't get to play with it. You get shown that Crash has already been through there and he's got those boxes and he's got those fruit and some of the enemies are dead, and I really do want to make it all the way back to the dock at the beginning, though, because I want to see if there's, like, something there.
Yeah.
Like, what kind of fucking dick shit would it be if that's where the tape is for that?
Probably. Yeah, I wouldn't put it past them. Probably.
Me either, because they're dicks.
Let me know if you get there.
I'm gonna go. I'll do it right after we get off of here.
Yeah.
I mean that in a loving way, by the way. They're
yeah.
absolutely dicks. But they're good dicks. Everybody loves good dick. I'm mature.
I love it. It's the humor I live for.
But yeah. So that, I mean, but really, all said and done, I think I really am looking most forward to the story. I look forward to seeing what they do with it, because, like I said, I've had worries where I'm like, oh, they're just gonna fucking split it all up into different universes, like fucking comic books, and like if we're lucky, every fucking 5 years we'll get a Crash of the Titans skin, but they'll pretend the events didn't happen. And I'm pessimistic, but then they'll drop the fucking flashback tape and there's Crunch Bandicoot back in Crash 1. I'm like, whoa! It's like, I think, even if they don't explicitly say it, like like the game just ends and that's it, even if they don't explicitly say it, I think they have laid enough seeds to where you can look at it and go, nah, this is between Warped and Wrath.
Yeah.
Because, like, you can easily hand-wave shit. You can go, like, oh, when they break out of the time prison, they went back to 1998. Because here's my thing, and I'm sorry to go back into spoiler territory, but in the Game Informer article, and by the time this will be irrelevant, I think, because I'm pretty sure there's going to be one more info drop, and I'm pretty sure they'll fucking say it. But in the Game Informer article, they mention Insanity Island is set in present day.
Huh.
Now, if Insanity Island is set in present day, that means Coco and Crash are in their fucking 30s. Because in those flashback tapes, it says 1996, and they are the same age then that they look now, so they ain't fucking, and I'm telling you, they ain't 20 and 30. So when it says present day, I bet you it means 1998. It means present day, like warped present day.
Yeah, for them. Yeah.
And that to me, if you're making a point of it being actually set in the 90s, to me that says most people would go, oh, well, that means that they're erasing everything. To me, that means the opposite. Because if you were erasing everything, you wouldn't put a time on it. Yeah. You would just throw it away. You would just be like, it's a sliding timeline. It's The Simpsons. Fucking Bart is always 8 or whatever.
Yeah.
But no, they set an actual point in time where they're like, this is when Crash 1 happened. This is when Crash 2 happens. This is when Warped happens. So to me, that says they're probably just going to do what everybody thinks they're not going to do, and they're probably going to do it in a way that tricks the fucking people who hate that they're going to do this into loving that they're going to do this, the same way Beanox tricked people into liking the PS2 shit with Nitro Fueled. by just putting it in there and going, what are you talking about? It's always been there.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I love it.
Wait, shitty PS2? No, it's in the Crash universe.
It happened.
It's what? It happened. And then everybody on this is what always kills me, by the way, and I promise to God we'll wrap this up before 3 hours. But I always love this. People will get on Twitter and they'll be like, man, I really love what they did to blah blah blah's personality in Nitro Fueled. It's so much better than it was in Tag Team Racing. And then you go and you look at the lines. They literally stole the lines from Tag Team Racing.
Yeah.
So, like, people are literally just that biased that they go, oh, I don't like Radical, or I don't like Traveler's Tales, I don't like anything that's not Naughty Dog. But you put it in a Naughty Dog coat of paint and you pretend it was always there, fits right in.
Yeah.
Same way with On the Run. They took Scorporilla and they're just like, nah, dude, that has always been in Crash. That's one of the most famous bosses of the whole series. And at first people were like, really? Scorporilla's a favorite character? And then I gave it 2 hours later, people were like, yeah, fuck yeah, Scorporilla! Fuck yeah! I love Scorporilla now. And I'm like, see? All you have to do is just make it fit the art, and it works. And I will always say that about Titans and Mind Over Mutant, because Here's my catchphrase. I've got a trademark on this. Mind Over Mutant is a better sequel to Crash 2 than Crash Warped was. It follows the story more directly. Talks about Brio's character arc.
Yep. Goddamn. Wow, I never saw to think about it that way. Holy shit.
I'm telling you. And Crash of the Titans, it's Cortex's plan from Crash 1 working.
Yeah. That is definitely true.
I'm telling you, man, people, they shit all over those games, but they just ain't paying attention.
Yeah, I've been saying that for the longest time. Those two games carry way more heart and soul of Crash, the essence I always say of Crash, than they give those games credit for.
Yeah. And the other thing I always say is, if people are like, how can those games have happened in the same timeline when everything looks different? I'm like, Twinsanity looks different than Wrath of Cortex, and you accept that it's a sequel to that.
Yeah.
So it's like, to me, it's like, the visuals, the graphics, those aren't the events. That's not the lore. That's not the canon. What is canon is what happens.
Yeah.
Like, and then somebody will crank out the old, well, Tiny's so different in personality. I'm like, which part of Tiny's personality is necessary for me to say, and then Crash goes to the wasteland where Tiny runs an oil rig, and Tiny is mining all the trees, and he tries to fight Crash, and then Crash beats him up. That's what happens in Titans. You don't need to, like, we don't need to get into the nitty gritty of him going, oh, you're fantabulous. Like, you don't have to acknowledge that. You can just go, this Crash and Tiny had a fight in the desert. It works. You just scrape the paint off, paint it with the fucking modern character designs, and say it happened. And there's no conflict. Like, and people will always, they also always say, oh, Titans doesn't even acknowledge the old games. I'm like, are you high? like in Titans, they literally say the name of Crash Twinsanity.
Yes.
They say it. They don't go like, oh, 3 years ago, Uka Uka had a body. No, they go, yeah, he had a body before in Crash Twinsanity, but that didn't really work out for him.
Yeah, I remember that.
Like,
that line. They
beat you over the head with it. Like, it's the same universe. It's not a reboot. Shut up. People still insist. And, like, the other thing that I hate, and okay, last thing. I won't get on any more tangents, I promise. The other thing I hate is people say in the intro, like the intro movie with the puppets, like the shadow puppets, like, it changes the origin of Crash. Clearly. I'm like, clearly it fucking doesn't, because in that intro movie, Nina and Cortex are walking around with a handheld gun, shooting animals and making them into shit. And people, well, it looks like Crash. Well, in the game that you play, Uka Uka says, remember the Evolve Ray? And he's got it on his fucking ceiling.
Yeah.
It's right there. Like, people changed the origin. No, they didn't. It's an abridged recap. It serves as an entry to new people and old people, because you can easily say that ain't even Crash, because, like, there's nothing about that intro that says we restarted everything. I'm going to catch some heat for saying that too, because I know a couple of prominent people in the Crash influencer community who think that, and I will always disagree with that, because the game goes out of its way to tell you it's in the same timeline.
Yeah.
And then you have the other thing where Mind Over Mutant, literally the first hour of the game, Embryo's like, I was in the first game, dude.
Yep.
I'm the same me that was there then. So, at the very least, you have to admit that Crash of the Titans and Mind Over Mutant are in the same timeline as Crash 1. And if they're in the same timeline as Crash 1, they're in the same timeline as Crash 2 and 3. And Wrath must be in the same timeline, because it has the fucking, they talk about the shit, we've lost the crystals before, and then that must be in the same timeline as Twinsanity, because it literally says it is, and then Titans is in the same timeline as Twinsanity. Like, it connects. Like, I think it's just obsequiousness. I don't even think that's the right word, but intentional ignorance, where people don't want it to be, so they pretend that it isn't. But it is.
Yep.
It's like the Scream movies. Nobody fucking liked 3, but it still happened, and 4 still acknowledges it, and everybody got over it. Like, you don't have to like every game. You don't have to like what happens in the games, but they happen, and it's canon.
Yep.
Just my take. All right, that's all I got to say about that. To wrap up the Crash 4 comments, it feels really good. It seems really well made. It's really hard. You can tell the heart for Crash is there. I swear I don't know. Like, in the cutscenes, it sounds like Jess Harnell, but in the game, like in the gameplay, when you fall in lava and shit, it doesn't.
Yeah.
I think it's still him. I hope it's still him, because Coco being recast, I don't like that. Like, that's the only thing I don't like. As like, if they're coming in and they're just like, you just reestablished the voice cast, and now you're gonna start ripping it apart again. I don't like that. And here's the thing: if that ends up being somebody different, it's not Jess Harnell. It sounds so much like Jess Harnell in the cutscenes that you wasted your money changing the voice actor. Because if it ends up being like some celebrity or something, or some higher tier voice actor, although I don't know how you'd find somebody higher tier in the voice acting industry than Jess Harnell. Yeah. If it ended up being some like that, and you spent more than you would on Jess, you just wasted your money, because it sounds like Jess. It should have just been Jess.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody on one of my servers earlier said maybe they pitch him up in the gameplay, and because when I watched just the cutscene, and there is a new cutscene in the demo. When I watch that cutscene, I'm like, that's Jess. It sounds like Jess.
Yeah.
But then you get in the game and it sounds all fucky and pitched up and stuff, and I'm like, well, maybe they're doing that because they're supposed to be younger.
I had that in my head.
This isn't the Crash and Coco from fucking Tag Team and onwards where and this was never said in the games, but I was told this at one point. Coco was supposed to be like 16, and so was Nina, and Crash is supposed to be like his early 20s, and they're supposed to be like, kind of young adults in the Radical games.
Yeah. Well, you get that from the designs. Especially Coco.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, they're supposed to be a little older there than they are in the earlier games. So, like, yeah. I think maybe they, like, pitched them up and maybe changed Coco because they're like, well, we want them to feel younger. But even then, I'm like, Debbie Derryberry can do a fucking kid voice. She's made a career on doing kid voices. And, like, people are like, oh, she's getting up there in age. And I'm like, so?
Doesn't matter. Listen to her in Nitrofield. Like, she sounds like Hinton Walsh.
Yeah. So, like... And that's the other thing is, like, she has range, so I hate when people don't direct her to have range. Like, Coco and Nina, like, in the game, in Nitro Fueled, they sound way too similar. Yeah. But then you go listen to the cutscene with Nina, and people thought it was Amy Gross at first.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did too.
Like, so Debbie Derryberry has range. So if people want to act like she doesn't, then you just need to direct better.
Yeah.
But, all that aside... I'm really looking forward to Crash 4. All that stuff that I said is good. The voice acting thing is really the only thing that I'm, like, iffy about. And if they end up doing the split timeline, shit and they shove everything in a drawer, that'll piss me off, but I'll accept it. Like, I'm not going to be like, I'm not playing Crash anymore. I'm canceling my pre-order. I'm not even I don't even want the PR. Like, I'm not going to do that. I'll be pissed for a few months, and then I'll be like, all right, well, they'll show up in the spinoffs. Because they will, because they ain't got enough fucking characters to make a spin-off without the Radical shit and the Traveler's Tales shit, so y'all can kiss my ass. Like, if they do another spin-off, Vicarious Visions, Traveler's Tales, and Radical's characters will be back every fucking time till the end of time, because they ain't got the characters to do it without them. And that's just the way it is.
And even then, with how much fan art, and again, the whole podcast has been... talking about how the space is different. So, especially on the internet, the space is different. Where, like, when we were introduced to all that shit in the past, the games just happened. It got its praise, its whatever, its criticisms, and then they just kind of, and then the next one came, and that's how it's been. Now, with how much more, devs and fans can actually, talk to each other, or whatever the case is, and all the fan art, all the different kinds of characters getting different spotlights, they're not going to forget it. Fans won't forget those characters, whether they liked them from back then or not, or if they knew them from back then or not. They ain't going to forget them.
Absolutely not. And that's why, no matter how pessimistic and worried I get about the timeline shit, just because I really don't like split timelines, if it's just an excuse to get rid of shit. Mm-hmm. Like, if you were going to have games in those timelines, sure, whatever. Do whatever you need to do to sleep at night. But, like, they have been watching too closely. The mobile game and the fucking racing game both were molded so clearly by fan input.
Yes.
Toys for Bob is much more like in tune with everybody than people think they are. Like, they're so in on the lore. Like, the fact that they're even looking at the Bandicoot general experiments.
Yeah.
Like when that's such a throwaway thing that Cortex barely mentions in the first game.
Yeah.
Like, it's deep lore, brother. So, like, the fact that they know all that shit and they're looking at that shit, I really don't think any of that stuff's going away. I really don't. And if it does, I'll eat crow, but I think that they'll, quote-unquote, do the right thing. Because I think I know there is a vocal minority of people who are like, yeah, fuck all that stuff, get rid of it, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no, fuck you.
Yeah, no.
Like, it hurts nobody to keep it. You don't even have to mention it. Just acknowledge that it happened and it's canon, and, like, you don't have to mention it. People are like, oh, just reintroduce Crunch, reintroduce Nina. I'm like, they've already been introduced. They were reintroduced with the fucking cart game. Everybody knows who they are. Just do a new story and use them. You don't have to fucking come up with a new origin story and retcon everything. People like those characters for what those characters are and what they were. Just use them. It's not like something where this is, or like it started in the comic book and this is the movie adaptation, like the MCU, where they they play with stuff on purpose to make it fresh from the comic. Like, this is an extended universe that's got all these characters that we've just been reintroduced to, and people want to get rid of them.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to overcomplicate it. Just, I get why Crash 4 is a sequel to Crash Warped, because that's where the audience fell off, and people want a trilogy game with the gameplay the same, yada, yada, yada. And that's great, and I like that. But I really, at the end of the day, and like I said, I got some studio director Paul Yan-liked ass tweets that make me real confident in saying this. At the end of the day, I don't think somebody like me is going to walk away from the game going, I'm let down. I just don't. To be honest, even I kind of have the confidence that even if they did try to do something like that, they would do it in a way where, like I said earlier, it would be respectful to people like me and you and people who have been with it since the beginning and haven't ever fallen off of it. I feel like, in a way, akin to the MCU thing the comparison. Those movies they don't use any of like the exact origins or anything, but they find a way to make it respectful. Like, and this is nerd shit, but like Vision being Jarvis, and I'm pretty sure you can hear that blender. But Vision being Jarvis, like that's a thing that they come up with in the movie. It's not like directly lifted from a comic, but it makes perfect fucking sense. Mm-hmm. Being with the I think it's the Mind Stone or whatever. And if people don't watch Marvel shit or read comics, they don't know what the fuck I'm on about. But like worst comes to worst, if they did like reimagine Nina's origin or something, like, as long as it's fucking cool to the fucking old one and doesn't say, no, fuck that Nina, we're making our own Nina, which I don't think they'll do, because if they wanted to do that, they would do what they did with Tawna and make it an alternate universe version. Mm-hmm. But we've wrapped up all your questions, and we're just at this point we're just treading water, and we're about to cross that 3-hour mark. So I think in the interest of your sanity for editing, I think maybe now would be a good time to call it. Especially because I haven't eaten in 3 hours. I don't know about you.
Oh boy, yeah.
I hadn't eaten in about 4 before that.
Fuck. So many awesome discussions. This is a very long podcast, so we're going to wrap it up. And first off, thank you so much for being on the podcast, because we've had so many great conversations, a lot of insight into a lot of good things. So,
more than happy to do it.
What we do at the end of every podcast is we will go ahead and have you plug yourself. So what you got going on right now?
Twitter.com/JumpButtonCB is where most of my crap is. You might want to mute the retweets if you're one of those people. But YouTube.com/JumpButtonCM, because YouTube is an asshole and won't let me change it. That's where High Budget Affair is, my new show, which is a show about a talk show, not a talk show. So every once in a while you'll see interviews, game reviews, product reviews. Got some stuff with Activision and Numbskull coming up.
Sweet.
Gonna be starting to breach into some interviews, all game focused, but not so game focused that it's hardline. And it also has an ongoing narrative that arcs from episode to episode, because I've been wanting to do something narrative for a long time. And this scratches both the itch of doing my interview show idea and doing the narrative show idea, and I don't have to make 2 shows. And it's intentionally low budget, hence the name, so that I can crap them out about an episode a week. And then finally, my other thing is Anton Ball Deluxe coming next year in Q1. I can't tell you exactly when yet. I know, but you're not allowed to know. It's coming next year, Q1 2021, for PC on Steam and the Nintendo Switch eShop. And that is at twitter.com/SummitSphere, which is SUMMITSPHERE. And that's all my shit.
Nice. Okay, well, I think now this one takes the cake for the longest Bandicast we've had, because it was Abdul, then it was Rapunzel, and now this one. And I don't think I'm going to cut too much. We'll see how that goes. I don't know if this is going to be like, oh, now that we're at the end here, this was part 2. I don't know what I'm going to do, so there's a lot of editing I got to do with this, but I'm looking forward to it. And I hope you guys have enjoyed listening. And thank you to Aaron for coming in earlier for the first hour of the podcast. Should gain some insight on, all the stuff we talked about, and it was a really good discussion. So, yeah, once more, thank you so much for coming on and talking Crash and how to grow as a YouTuber.
Even though I'm not one.
Yeah,
but
how to grow as a content creator.
Yeah, I can always rattle off about Crash Bandicoot for 3 hours, so. All right.
Thank you guys.
See you soon.
Yep, thank you guys so much for listening. Take care.